Chapter 1953. The City Lord's Manor. Many city lords and exalted immortals were drinking and chatting as they looked at the mirage. The battle in the Ten Extremities prison was getting more and more intense. In less than 2 days, more than half of the 100,000 mystic immortals had died. Apart from the mystic immortals killing each other, more than half of them were killed by the earth demons that had awakened in the Ten Extremities prison. As more and more earth demons awakened, the remaining mystic immortals had less and less space to survive. At this moment, the sky above Eternal Thunder's city suddenly changed. The sky was originally clear, but for some reason, it was suddenly filled with dark clouds. It was as if someone had splashed ink on it, causing it to change unpredictably. The dark clouds covered the city, and the sky gradually darkened. The atmosphere in Eternal Thunder City became a little tense. True Immortal Mirror Moon frowned and looked up. Such a situation had never happened since the establishment of Eternal Thunder City. What's going on? Why is there such a phenomenon in the sky? Did something happen in the city? The exalted immortals looked at each other with doubtful expressions. Most of them were heaven immortals. At their cultivation level, they knew that such a phenomenon would not happen if there was no reason. Duke Yuanzwan narrowed his eyes. For some reason, he suddenly felt a sense of fear in his heart. As time passed, the dark clouds in the sky became thicker and thicker. They gathered above Eternal Thunder City and did not disperse. Rumble. Suddenly, a muffled sound of thunder came from the depths of the dark clouds. The sound of thunder was not loud, but when it landed in the ears of the city lords and exalted immortals, it gave them a fright. One had to know that since the establishment of Eternal Thunder City, all the power of thunder had disappeared. For hundreds of thousands of years, not a single sound of thunder had appeared in the sky above Eternal Thunder City. How is this possible? The city lord of Eternal Thunder City was shocked and murmured softly. He seemed to have thought of something and suddenly turned his head to look at the Eternal Thunder God Pillar in the city. The God Pillar was still standing in the center of the ancient city. It towered into the clouds and did not change much. The God Pillar is fine. What's going on? The city lord of Eternal Thunder City was even more confused. At this moment, Lu Yu pointed at the mirage and suddenly exclaimed, "Look! What's wrong? What happened?" The attention of the many exalted immortals was attracted by the dark clouds and thunder above their heads. None of them were looking at the mirage mirror. Lu Yu said, "There seemed to be a saber glow rushing out from the Ten Extremes formation. The speed of the saber light was too fast." He was not sure, so his tone was a little hesitant. "What saber light? Are you sure you came out from the Ten Extremes prison?" True Immortal Miramon's heart skipped a beat. She seemed to have thought of something. I didn't see clearly either. Maybe I saw wrongly." When Lu Yu heard True Immortal Miramon's question, he felt somewhat guilty. Boom! At this moment, a loud sound came from under their feet. Then, the ground in front of everyone cracked open, and a long saber that was emitting a cold and murderous aura shot out from the ground. It left the city and sped towards the distance. "It's the Executioner's blade." True Immortal Mirror Moon saw it clearly and cried out in shock. Duke Yuanzwan's expression changed drastically. The surrounding city lords and exalted immortals were in an uproar. They knew what was in the Ten Extremes formation, and they also knew who the Executioner's saber was. Now that the Executioner's saber had left the Ten Extremes formation, what did that mean? At this moment, the scene in the mirage mirror started to shake. Everyone stared at the mirage mirror. They saw a drastic change in the Ten Extremes formation, and a storm was brewing in the deity formation. The 10 deity formations were in complete chaos. "Oh no, the deity formations have been broken." True Immortal Mirror Moon frowned and said in a low voice, "This means that the formation cores of the 10 deity formations have been broken." "What's going on?" "That sinner from the lower realm has been crippled. How could he have escaped?" "Did someone help him?" Many city lords and exalted immortals stood up, looking nervous. The crowd burst into an uproar. If the exalted immortals were so nervous, the earth immortals and guards in the city lord's mansion were also extremely nervous. That sinner from the lower realm was a taboo legend to them. He was a supreme immortal, the most powerful person below the celestial king. When he was at his peak, he had swept across the 9 heavens immortal realm. No one dared to challenge him. Although Duke Yuanzhou was only an earth immortal, he was extremely calm in this situation. He did not show any signs of panic. Everyone calmed down. True immortal Mirror Moon took a deep breath and looked at the city lords and exalted immortals. She slowly emitted a powerful aura. Everyone in the city lord's mansion gradually quieted down. True immortal Mirror Moon usually looked kind and amiable. However, when it came to this kind of situation, she revealed the majesty of a city lord. True immortal Mirror Moon said in a low voice, "Everyone, don't forget that this is Late Thunder City. It was built specifically to suppress that sinner from the lower realm. Moreover, that sinner's Tao fruit has been crippled. He has been suppressed for hundreds of thousands of years. Even if he could break out of the formation, how strong could he be?" True immortal Mirror Moon's words calmed the restlessness in everyone's hearts. That's right. The city lord of Late Thunder City smiled coldly and said, "The essence of a true immortal's cultivation is all condensed in the Tao fruit. Once the Tao fruit is broken, even if the sinner escapes, his combat strength would at most be close to that of a sky immortal. When the time comes, I can suppress him and throw him back into the dungeon without needing the city lord to do anything." Good. Duke Yuanzhou was satisfied and clapped his hands in praise. The city lord of Mufeng City was quite young. He also stood up and raised his head slightly. He smiled coldly and said, "That sinner has been suppressed for hundreds of thousands of years. His chi blood is declining and he is on the verge of death. In my opinion, he might not even be able to defeat me." Mufeng City was not big. The city lord's cultivation was a rank 9 earth immortal. Boom. At this moment, the ground under everyone's feet suddenly trembled. Everyone quickly looked at the mirage mirror. They saw that the 10 terminal formations clouds were gradually thinning, revealing a stone pillar in the middle. Through the clouds, they could vaguely see a skinny figure standing under the stone pillar. He was as thin as a match and his hair was yellow. It seemed like a gust of wind could blow him away. There were broken chains under the feet of this figure. It was obvious that he had just broken free. Not far away from this figure, there seemed to be another figure. However, they could not see clearly. This is the sinner from the lower world? Ha! As expected, this sinner has already fallen to such a state. I'm afraid I can crush him to death with a single finger. The city lord of Mufeng City was young and arrogant. He could not help but laugh. The crowd also laughed along. Suddenly, the skinny figure raised his head. The messy hair on his face fell to the sides, revealing a pair of eyes. Lightning surged in his eyes and it was extremely bright. Screams could be heard from the city lord's residence. All the cultivators that met this pair of eyes closed their eyes with painful expressions. Some earth immortals, including the city lord of Mufeng City who was laughing just now, were bleeding from their eyes. It was horrifying. Their eyes were blinded just by meeting this pair of lightning eyes. What was more terrifying was that this was not a direct meeting of eyes. It was through the mirage mirror. 2K Reading Net. Chapter 1954. Some of the sky immortals in the city lord's mansion could not take it. Their eyes stung, and they quickly looked away, not daring to look. True immortal Mirror Moon's eyes were wide open. Her eyes were shining brightly. His eyes were like 2 ancient mirrors. He wanted to see what was going on inside. Boom. However, at this moment, the mirage was unable to withstand the eyes of lightning and instantly shattered. Cracks also appeared on the mirage before it exploded with a loud bang. At the same time, dark clouds rolled in the sky above Thunder City, and thunder rumbled. Dazzling lightning flashed in the dark clouds, as if it was going to tear the huge black cloth in the sky into countless pieces. True immortal Mirror Moon clenched his fists subconsciously. The Thunder Emperor's power was much stronger than he had imagined. But how was this possible? How could a person whose Tao fruit had been destroyed still possess such violent and domineering strength? In the 10 Extremities prison, the mystic immortals from the lower worlds who were killing each other stopped fighting. They all looked in the direction of the 10 Extremities formation with fear. Even the earth demons, who had slaughtered without restraint, chose to lie on the ground, trembling in fear. They were more sensitive to danger. These earth demons could feel that there was an extremely terrifying existence in the 10 Extremities formation that had awakened from its hibernation. No one knew what was going on. But the entire 10 Extremities prison was shaking, as if it could collapse at any time. Tang Zi clenched her fists and stood in the forest, looking in the direction of the 10 Extremities formation. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. Even with her temperament, she could not suppress her emotions at this moment. Could it be? She did not dare to imagine. She was worried that the greater her hope, the greater her disappointment. In the 10 Extremities formation, Su Zimo looked at the Thunder Emperor in front of him in shock. He felt an unimaginably terrifying power in the Thunder Emperor's small and withered body, as if it could explode at any time. Senior, how did you, apart from shock, Su Zimo was even more puzzled. He saw with his own eyes that the Thunder Emperor's Tao fruit had shattered. How could a person whose Tao fruit had shattered and was suppressed for hundreds of thousands of years be able to erupt with such terrifying strength after escaping? The Thunder Emperor seemed to see through Su Zimo's confusion. He smiled and said, "My Tao fruit is indeed gone. However, I have been trapped here for hundreds of thousands of years, unable to move. However, I have comprehended something new. I will pass on the remaining comprehensions to you. With your talent, one day, you will definitely be able to comprehend them." As soon as his voice fell, a strand of spiritual sense poured into Su Zimo's sea of consciousness. The Thunder Emperor imparted all the comprehensions that he hadn't finished imparting to Su Zimo, without holding anything back. In a while, Juele City will be in chaos. I won't be able to take care of you. Be careful and take advantage of the chaos to leave. While Su Zimo was still digesting the spiritual sense just now, the Thunder Monarch's voice rang out again. Su Zimo shook his head, took a deep breath, and looked up. The Thunder Emperor's figure slowly rose into the air and flew toward the 10 Extremes prison. The aura emitted by the skinny figure became even more terrifying, attracting the attention of the living beings in the 10 Extremes prison. Many Xian immortals and living beings were terrified. Tang Zi, on the other hand, looked excited. Her lips moved as if she wanted to say something, but in the end, she didn't say anything. The Thunder Emperor arrived above the 10 Extremes prison. He raised his head angrily and suddenly punched toward the top of his head. This thin and weak fist was not much bigger than a baby's fist. However, the punch caused the sky to collapse and the earth to sink. The 10 Extremes prison was broken through. The Thunder Emperor's figure continued to rise. There was nothing that could stop him from moving forward. Rumble. Finally, the ground of the City Lord's mansion exploded, and the Thunder Emperor emerged from the ground. In an instant, a bolt of lightning as thick as an arm descended from the sky above Juele City and struck the Thunder Emperor's body. There was no sign of pain on the Thunder Emperor's face. Instead, the lightning in his eyes burned brighter. Even the flesh on his body seemed to have filled up a little. The lightning would cause great harm to others, but to the Thunder Emperor, it was a great supplement. The Thunder Emperor's eyes flickered with lightning, dazzling to the eyes. Wherever his gaze landed, the void would tremble and distort. The mountain and the main hall of the City Lord's mansion were also collapsing. They could not withstand the lightning eye. In the City Lord's mansion, not many people could look him in the eye. The Thunder Emperor took a deep breath. The surrounding yuan qi of heaven and earth continuously surged into his body. His body began to swell bit by bit. His shriveled flesh began to fill up, and his skin began to glow with a ruddy glow. Seeing this, Su Zimo vaguely realized that all these years, the Thunder Emperor had used his supreme dermic powers to seal the essence in his body to resist the erosion of time. Now that the Thunder Emperor had broken through the 10 Extremes prison, he was absorbing the yuan qi of heaven and earth and releasing the essence in his body. His strength and condition were rapidly recovering. The Thunder Emperor stood in the air. Lightning flashed on his body, as if he wanted to trample the entire Thunder City under his feet. He exuded a domineering aura. The City Lord of Thunder City? The patriarch of the immortal sect? At this moment, they were all intimidated by the Thunder Emperor's aura. They did not dare to step forward. Now, the only one who could resist the Thunder Emperor's aura was true immortal Mirror Moon. Fengken, it's really you. True immortal Mirror Moon also slowly got up and flew into the air. Facing the Thunder Emperor, she shouted, "Who are you?" The Thunder Emperor looked at true immortal Mirror Moon and asked casually, "I'm the governor of Azure Cloud County. My Taoist name is Mirror Moon." True immortal Mirror Moon said in a deep voice, "Oh." The Thunder Emperor faintly replied, "I have some impression of you. Back then, when I was acquainted with Sima, you were merely a little disciple by his side." "How dare you, sinner?" True immortal Mirror Moon shouted. "Today is not the past. How dare you call Prince Jean by his name?" "Oomph." The Thunder Emperor snorted coldly. His voice was like thunder. "Has he been conferred the title of Prince Jean?" The Thunder Emperor looked coldly at true immortal Mirror Moon and sneered. "So what if I call him by his name?" "Fengken Tian, your Tao fruit has been destroyed. Now, you're just putting up a strong front. You're an arrow at the end of its flight. There's no need to bluff here." True immortal Mirror Moon was fearless. Her aura continued to rise. She shouted, "If you call Prince Jean by his name, I can suppress you. You're welcome to try." The Thunder Emperor's expression showed no fear at all. True immortal Mirror Moon directly attacked. She formed hand seals with both hands. A ray of divine light shot out from between her eyebrows and entered between her palms. She used her true essence to form a huge saber and slashed at the Thunder Emperor. She knew very well that the Thunder Emperor had escaped and was recovering his strength. The longer this dragged on, the more advantageous it would be for the Thunder Emperor. The Thunder Emperor did not dodge. He stretched out his hand and grabbed at the void. Lightning surged in the center of his palm. In the blink of an eye, a long spear flashing with lightning was formed. It emitted a terrifying aura and was thrown at true immortal Mirror Moon. Boom! The saber and spear collided, causing a loud explosion. Chapter 1955. Violent energy surged in all directions, almost overturning half of the City Lord's mansion. Heaven and earth shook. The saber and spear dissipated at the same time. Mirror Moon True Immortal did not gain the slightest advantage in this head-on clash. Quintessential essence. Mirror Moon True Immortal exclaimed, "How is this possible? Your Tao fruit is shattered. How can you condense quintessential essence?" After cultivating to the true self realm and condensing a Tao fruit, all quintessential qi would be absorbed by the Tao fruit and circulated into the body, forming extremely pure energy. This was quintessential essence. Not only that, quintessential essence also contained a cultivator's Tao and spells. Therefore, after cultivating to the true self realm and becoming a true immortal, even if it was just an ordinary attack, condensing a saber or a sword with quintessential essence, or even the most ordinary spells would be enough to crush many mystic arts and spells. Even if a heavenly immortal expert released a peerless mystic art, it would be difficult to resist quintessential essence. Of course, it was a different story if the mystic art was supreme. Normally speaking, if the Tao fruit was shattered, it would be impossible to condense quintessential essence. This was why Mirror Moon True Immortal was so confident that she could suppress the Thunder Emperor. However, she did not expect that the lightning spear that the Thunder Emperor casually condensed would also contain quintessential essence. Hee. The Thunder Emperor smiled, his expression proud as he slowly said, "My Tao fruit was indeed crippled by Tian Xing. However, I did not waste these hundreds of thousands of years. Now that my Tao fruit is shattered, I will replace it with a sea of lightning." As soon as he finished speaking, a series of earth-shattering thunderous roars came from the sky, as if the heavens were angry and were about to send down lightning punishment. The dark clouds above Thunder City seemed to be pulled by some kind of power as they slowly rotated, forming a huge vortex of dark clouds. Within the vortex, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled continuously. At the center of the vortex, the lightning gathered and became more and more intense. Finally, It turned into a huge bolt of lightning that descended on the Thunder Emperor. The Thunder Emperor stood in the air, looking up at the sky without dodging. His entire body was bathed in lightning, as if he was a god of lightning, unparalleled in the world. The Thunder Emperor opened his glabella, revealing his sea of consciousness. Due to the shattered Tao fruit, the Thunder Emperor's sea of consciousness was in tatters. There were even holes everywhere. And in these potholes, some lightning had already accumulated. This could not be considered a sea of lightning. At best, it could only be considered a lightning puddle. But as time passed, more and more power of thunder and lightning surged into this sea of consciousness. These pits gradually connected together, forming a lake of thunder and lightning. Seeing this scene, the bystanders were inexplicably shocked. As for Su Zimo, who had obtained the Thunder Emperor's true inheritance, a trace of understanding flashed across his heart. Destruction is followed by re-establishment. The Tao fruit is shattered, and the sea of lightning appears. Su Zimo recalled the chants of the Void Thunder scripture. These chants were clearly the result of the Thunder Emperor's hundreds of thousands of years of comprehension. To think that it can be done this way, Su Zimo murmured softly, filled with admiration. The Thunder Sovereign was a shocking genius. Even though his Tao fruit was crippled, he didn't give up. Instead, he created a new Tao art and reformed his shattered sea of consciousness, evolving it into a sea of lightning to replace the Tao fruit. Now that the Lightning Emperor was free and able to absorb the lightning, his cultivation base and power were rapidly recovering. As long as time allowed, he would definitely be able to return to his peak and might even be stronger than before. The dark clouds above Thunder City grew thicker and thicker. The lightning was so dazzling that ordinary cultivators couldn't look directly at it. As the Thunder Emperor's aura continued to rise, the lightning around him was so dense that it almost condensed into a sea. The Thunder Emperor's yellow hair fell off and new black hair grew out. His physical body was also rapidly replenishing. His skin regained its luster and his face was ruddy. The aura of old age on his body was swept away. Jingyue, didn't you say that he was at the end of his lifespan? Seeing this, Duke Yuanzhua was enraged and a trace of panic finally appeared in his eyes. Haha. The Thunder Emperor laughed. A bunch of ignorant juniors. When the Heavenly Punishment King plotted against me, I was already half a step into the Grotto Heaven realm. My lifespan had broken free from the shackles of heaven and earth and reached 1,000,000 years. I was no different from an immortal king. It was only now that Su Zimo realized that the so-called Immortal King was not the name of the realm. It was a title similar to Heaven Immortal and Perfected Immortal. Mystic Aeon Realm, Earthly Aeon Realm, Heavenly Aeon Realm, and True Self Realm. Above the True Self Realm was the Grotto Heaven Realm. Only after stepping into the Grotto Heaven Realm could one be bestowed the title of King. Although the Thunder Emperor's Tao fruit had been destroyed by the Heavenly Punishment King, his lifespan had not declined because of it. Now that the Thunder Emperor had broken free, although his strength had not recovered, the means that he had displayed were already beyond everyone's expectations. That thin and weak old man had already disappeared. In his place was a handsome man with lightning eyes and an imposing aura. He was a peerless powerhouse who controlled lightning. This powerhouse had been imprisoned for hundreds of thousands of years and had suffered all kinds of torture. Now that he had broken free, heaven and earth were shocked. In the 10 Extremes prison, most of the mystic immortals were stunned and didn't know what to do. In a battle of this level, if one was careless and got caught up in it, not even a speck of dust would be left. The hunting gathering was not over yet. Normally, without orders, no one was allowed to leave without permission. Otherwise, they would be killed by the hunting list. Moreover, the 10 Extremes prison was built deep underground. Although the mystic immortals could fly, there was a limit to how high they could reach. Therefore, most of the mystic immortals still stayed in the 10 Extremes prison to watch. Of course, there were also a few who chose to escape the 10 Extremes prison. Su Zimo was one of them. The 10 Extremes prison was hundreds of meters above the ground. It was difficult for others to reach, but it was not difficult for Su Zimo. He did not use the great rock wings. There were too many people here. He would not use such a trump card unless it was absolutely necessary. Releasing ethereal wings, Su Zimo soared into the skies and flew towards the city lord's residence. Of course, the ethereal wings' speed was much slower than the great rock wings. At this moment, Su Zimo's heart jumped. He felt that someone was watching him not far away. Without batting an eyelid, he turned around to look. On the other side, a purple figure was also flying toward the sky. Lightning flashed on her body, and her speed was shocking. Tang Zi. At this moment, Tang Zi's aura was clearly much stronger than when she was in the 10 Extremes prison. In the blink of an eye, Tang Zi overtook Su Zimo. When they passed each other, Tang Zi's voice sounded in Su Zimo's mind. I was not at my peak in the 10 Extremes prison. If we have a chance, we can fight again. Also, I owe you too. I will definitely pay you back. Su Zimo smiled and did not say anything. He could sense a familiar aura from Tang Zi. If he was not mistaken, Tang Zi had also cultivated the void lightning technique. However, he did not know where she learned it from and how it was related to the Thunder Emperor. Not long after, Su Zimo flew to the city lord's mansion. He took advantage of the chaos and left. He hid in a corner of Thunder City and watched the figure in the sky. Chapter 1956. We can't let him continue to devour lightning. True Immortal Miramon's expression was grave. She could clearly see that there were more and more lakes in the Thunder Emperor's Sea of Consciousness. If the Thunder Emperor continued to devour lightning and connect these lakes together, it was possible that they would form a sea of lightning. At that time, no one in the city would be able to suppress this person. Feng Cantion, you actually want to borrow the power of lightning to cultivate in this late Thunder City. Truly laughable. True Immortal Miramon's hands quickly formed hand seals, and she pointed at the huge stone pillar in the middle of Thunder City. She lightly shouted, "Break for me." The runes on the stone pillar quickly lit up and released a mysterious light. Then these runes quickly gathered together and formed a huge beam of light. Then it soared into the sky and submerged into the dark clouds above the Thunder City. Boom! A loud sound rang out. The dark cloud vortex in the sky was actually stopped by the collision and split into pieces. The dark clouds in the sky showed signs of collapsing. The lightning between the dark clouds and the Thunder Emperor was also instantly cut off. The Thunder Emperor turned his head. Lightning flashed in his eyes as his gaze landed on the stone pillar in the middle of the city. Good. This is not Tian Xing's method. He can't do it. The Thunder Emperor slowly nodded. When the Thunder God Pillar was created, the Thunder Emperor was already suppressed in the 10 Extreme prison. But he could tell at a glance whose work this absolute Thunder God Pillar came from. Sima! The Thunder Emperor called out Prince Jin's name and clenched his fists. Suddenly, two blazing lightning shot out from his eyes and collided with the Thunder God Pillar. The lightning and the God Pillar collided silently. The Thunder Emperor's eyes contained the power of lightning. Even true Immortal Miramoon had to use all her strength to block it. But when it landed on the Thunder God Pillar, it did not cause any ripples. It was as if all the lightning was absorbed by the Thunder God Pillar like a stone sinking into the sea. The dark clouds in the sky also gradually dispersed. The name of the Thunder God Pillar was not false. The Thunder Emperor snorted and attacked again. He pointed forward and a bolt of lightning shot out from his fingertip. It landed on the Absolute Thunder God Pillar and quickly formed a lightning prison, trapping the Absolute Thunder God Pillar inside. Inside the prison, thunder rumbled and electric arcs flashed. But soon, the lightning was absorbed by the Absolute Thunder Divine Pillar and disappeared. The Thunder Emperor's attack failed again. Seeing this, True Immortal Miramoon let out a sigh of relief. Feng Kenan, give up. True Immortal Miramoon sneered. This ultimate Thunder Divine Pillar was set up by King Jin himself. Even if you recover to your peak, you won't be able to move it. Miramoon quickly suppress him. Duke Yunzhua felt uneasy and could not help but urge. Rest assured, Your Highness. True Immortal Miramoon smiled and said, Absolute Thunder City has been built for hundreds of thousands of years. Its purpose is to suppress this sinner from the lower realm. All these years, The fact that Thunder City has been able to stand firm is definitely not due to luck. It's because there are other true immortals in Jewel City besides me. Commander Prince Yuanzhou was taken aback. Are you serious? Even he didn't know about this matter. True immortal Mirror Moon said, this sinner from the lower realm was very famous in the Nine Clouds immortal realm and had many followers. To prevent any accidents, King Jin made this arrangement. Right at this moment, a wave of unusual movement suddenly came from within Thunder Jewel City, and numerous peerlessly powerful auras burst forth. Boom! A figure rose from the east. Although his hair was white, his body was surrounded by true origin and his aura was very powerful. Boom! Another figure landed in the northwest. He held a horsetail whisk in his hand. Although he was old, he was hale and hearty and his eyes were bright. Boom! 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 Many figures came out of seclusion and landed in Jewel City. Most of these figures were sent here by King Jin hundreds of thousands of years ago to guard this place. Now they were all in their old age. Even so, their auras were comparable to true immortal Mirrormans. Su Zimo glanced at them. There were 10 true immortals in total, corresponding to the number of the 10 ultimate formations. Including true immortal Mirror Moon, there were 11 true immortals. If it were hundreds of thousands of years ago, not to mention 11 true immortals, even 10 times more would not be enough to catch the Thunder Emperor's attention. However, the Thunder Emperor had just escaped and his strength had not recovered to its peak. Just true immortal Mirrorman's attack did not give the Thunder Emperor any advantage. Moreover, this was Jewel City. With a godly item like the Jewel Godly Pillar, the Thunder Emperor's strength was suppressed too much. Moreover, Su Zimo knew better than anyone else. The wound on the Thunder Emperor's chest had not healed yet. Latest update from the new 81 Chinese network phone. // How could the wound from being nailed to a stone pillar by the Grotto Heaven spiritual treasure for hundreds of thousands of years heal so easily? Phone Canon, do you still recognize me? From the east, an old true immortal slowly walked in the direction of the Thunder Emperor and called out. New 81 Chinese network, it's you? The Thunder Emperor raised his eyebrows and smiled. Back then at the Nine Clouds Immortal Gathering, you couldn't even withstand my gaze. Now, you still have the guts to stand in front of me? That was back then. The old true immortal blushed slightly when he heard this. He gritted his teeth and said hatefully, Fonghan, back then, you were so mighty and arrogant. Because of that battle back then, my Tao heart was damaged, and my cultivation is only improving now. Oh, is this my fault? The Thunder Emperor sneered. Even if you didn't lose, your achievements would be limited to this. Bullshit. The true immortal old man was furious and cursed out loud. Back then, he was also a true immortal, but he was defeated by the Thunder Emperor's gaze in the Nine Clouds immortal realm and became a laughingstock. Later, when he heard that the Thunder Emperor was in trouble, he volunteered to guard the Thunder Emperor to vent his anger. However, after all these years, the wound on his Tao heart had not healed. Now that the Thunder Emperor had brought up the past, new wounds had been added to his Tao heart that had yet to heal. Brother Tianku, why are you arguing with him? Another true immortal old man sneered and said, he has been imprisoned under absolute Thunder City for hundreds of thousands of years and has never seen the light of day. His situation is not much better. The higher you climb, the harder you fall. The old true immortal in the north mocked. The peerless true immortal back then has fallen from the altar. All your glory is in the past. Fong Kenan, you didn't know what was good for you back then. You even wanted to build a celestial kingdom for the people of the lower world. You brought this upon yourself. Fong Kention, you came from the lower world. It's already your great fortune to be recognized by the divine firmament immortal emperor. However, you don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. You want to control lightning and punish on behalf of the heavens. How dare you? This is what it means when the heavens want to destroy you. No one can save you. Many true immortals stepped forward and surrounded the Thunder Emperor, scolding him angrily. These true immortals were talking about heinous crimes, but Su Zimo's blood surged and his heart surged when he heard them. wanting to control lightning and punish on behalf of the heavens. How bold was that? The Thunder Emperor was the Thunder Emperor, the only one in the world. Chapter 1957. True immortal Mirror Moon shouted, and an ancient bronze mirror flew out of her wide sleeves. It emitted a mysterious light as it floated in the air and shot toward the Thunder Emperor. On the ancient bronze mirror, one could vaguely see 8 runes. They were different from the runes on Mystic and Earth-grade Dharma treasures. These runes looked more like they had been struck by lightning. There were 7 of them. A 7th Tribulation Spirit treasure? The Thunder Emperor's gaze swept across and he sneered. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Many spirit treasures had been born in the abyss of the Dragon Abyss planet. Among them, there were spirit treasures of different tribulations. The Fiend God's soul-summoning banner that had been devoured by the hell-suppressing cauldron was a 9th-grade spirit treasure, also known as a pure yang spirit treasure. The remaining 10 true immortals also took out their spirit-channeling Dharma treasures. These spirit-channeling Dharma treasures were all different. Some were horsetail whisks, some were flying swords, some were pagodas, and some were holding a large bell. Su Zimo focused and could see the same burn marks on these spirit-channeling Dharma treasures as the ancient bronze mirror. However, these spirit-channeling Dharma treasures had fewer burn marks. Some had 4, some had 5, and some had 6. Based on this, these spirit-channeling Dharma treasures were most likely 4th or 5th Tribulation spirit treasures. The numerous Dharma treasures were filled with killing intent, ready to destroy the Thunder Emperor. The Thunder Emperor's eyes flashed like lightning. His figure moved, wanting to dodge. However, the mysterious light of the ancient bronze mirror shrouded him, causing his movements to become extremely slow. It was as if he had sunk into a swamp. Seeing this, true immortal Mirrorman's face showed no joy at all. Instead, there was deep fear. Normally speaking, the light of the ancient bronze mirror was enough to freeze most true immortals in place, unable to move. However, the Thunder Emperor had been suppressed for hundreds of thousands of years and was injured. The Sea of Lightning had yet to form. Even a 7th Tribulation spirit treasure could not completely suppress him. If the Thunder Emperor really recovered to his peak, it would be unimaginable. Great. When the other true immortals saw this, their spirits were lifted. Originally, when everyone took out their magic treasures, it was very difficult to hit the Thunder Emperor. But now, the Thunder Emperor's movements were restricted and his movement speed was slow. Even if he could avoid one numinous treasure, he would not be able to avoid the other 9. Horsetail whisks, flying swords, pagodas, and many other spirit treasures descended. The Thunder Emperor tried his best to dodge, but the restriction of the ancient bronze mirror was too great. He was still hit by the 3 spirit treasures. But the horsetail whisk heavily struck the Thunder Emperor's back, and blood flashed. With just this one strike, the Thunder Emperor's back was lacerated. It was an extremely miserable sight. Su Zimo's heart tightened. As for the old man with the horsetail whisk, he didn't show any excitement after hitting the Thunder Emperor. Instead, he frowned. His horsetail whisk seemed soft, but if it was whipped on a body of flesh and blood, it would definitely break the opponent's bones and tendons. But now, although the Thunder Emperor was injured, it was only a superficial wound. His foundation was not injured at all. Another blood-red light burst forth. A cold light streaked across the Thunder Emperor's thigh, leaving behind an extremely deep wound that was dripping with blood. The cold light circled around and returned to the side of another perfected immortal old man. It was a flying sword. That perfected immortal old man had a grim expression as well. Although his flying sword had scratched the Thunder Emperor's flesh, it was as though it had struck metal when it struck his bones. His flying sword was repelled instead. The pagoda descended and smashed the Thunder Emperor's head viciously. Bang! The Thunder Emperor staggered and was nearly knocked down by the pagoda. However, he shook his head and stood up quickly, straightening his body. Although his head was bleeding from the beating, the aura on his body was growing stronger and stronger. His eyes were surging with thunderous fury. Pissed. The expressions of the cultivators in Absolute Thunder City changed. Even true immortal Mirror Moon and the other true immortals were secretly shocked. This was way too scary. How strong was he to take on a numinous treasure with his physical body? What was even more frightening was that the Thunder Emperor's strength had yet to recover fully, and the thunderbolts above Absolute Thunder City were isolated by the Absolute Thunder God Pillar as well. If the Thunder Emperor could regain control of lightning, they might not be his match. True Immortal Mirrorman's expression was calm as she said, "Everyone, attack with all your might. This person won't be able to cause any trouble in Absolute Thunder City. He can't absorb the power of lightning. Even if we wear him down, we can still exhaust him to death. If you can withstand my pagoda once, I'll smash you 10 times, 100 times, until you're completely suppressed." The 10 perfected immortals attacked again. Some of the perfected immortals began to gather their quintessential essence, while others even released various mystic arts and secret techniques. They were going all out. The Thunder Emperor was restrained by the 7th Tribulation Numinous Treasure and the Bronze Mirror and was completely at a disadvantage. Bang, bang, bang. The Numinous Treasures smashed the Thunder Emperor's body one after another. In the blink of an eye, the Thunder Emperor's body was covered in wounds. If this continued, the Thunder Emperor would definitely lose. Su Zimo had a worried expression. Even if he wanted to help in a battle of this level, there was nothing he could do. He could condense Time Blade. However, Time Blade was only a great mystic art and could not threaten a perfected immortal at all. Before the Time Blade could land on the perfected immortal's body, it would be shattered by the quintessential essence surrounding the perfected immortal. There was only one key to breaking the deadlock in front of him, and that was the Absolute Thunder Divine Pillar. As long as the Thunder Emperor could communicate with the power of lightning in heaven and earth again and regain control of lightning, he would definitely be able to turn the tables and escape. "Little brother, let me borrow your cauldron." Just as Su Zimo was thinking, the Thunder Emperor's voice suddenly sounded in his mind. The hell-suppressing cauldron was one of his most important treasures. However, at this moment he did not hesitate at all. Chapter 1958. This true Immortal's Pagoda was a 5th Tribulation spiritual treasure. Although it was not of a high grade, it could not be destroyed so easily. Even true Immortal Mirrorman's Bronze Mirror could not destroy his spiritual treasure. And now, this shabby and unremarkable bronze cauldron had destroyed his pagoda. What was more frightening was that the true immortals could clearly see that there was no light on the bronze cauldron, nor was there any true yuan. The Thunder Emperor could destroy the pagoda because of his own strength and the bronze cauldron's hardness. It was understandable that the Thunder Emperor could be so strong. But what was the origin of this bronze cauldron? While the true immortals were shocked, the Thunder Emperor took the opportunity to rush toward the center of the city. "Where do you think you're going?" An old man in front of him raised his giant axe, channeled his chi and blood, and leaped forward to hack at the Thunder Emperor. This old man was good at refining his body. Although he was in his old age, his chi and blood were still very strong. When he swung his giant axe, it burst out with surging power. Scram! The Thunder Emperor did not dodge. He shouted and did not make any unnecessary movements. He raised his cauldron and smashed it down. Clang! The giant axe and the cauldron collided. The entire city shook, and the heavens and earth went silent. In the next moment, the old man cried out in pain. His palm was torn and blood was dripping. The giant axe in his hand was sent flying by the cauldron and smashed into the crowd. A few earth immortals could not dodge in time and were split in half, dying on the spot. The Thunder Emperor took the opportunity to rush out of the encirclement with the cauldron. "Quick, stop him!" True Immortal Mirror Moon hurriedly urged. She and the other 10 true immortals moved and surrounded the Thunder Emperor again. However, they did not go far before they realized that the Thunder Emperor was not running. The Thunder Emperor came to the center of the city and stopped. "Umph!" A true immortal sneered. "Fong Cantion, you can't get the nourishment of lightning in this city. I want to see how long you can last." Just true Immortal Mirror Moon and the others knew what was going on. Although the Thunder Emperor had used the bronze cauldron to break out of their encirclement and even destroyed a pagoda, the Thunder Emperor's strength was not enough to threaten them. He The Thunder Emperor suddenly laughed. Ha ha! The Thunder Emperor's laughter grew louder and louder. It was as if divine lightning from the 9 heavens had struck the ancient city, shaking the heavens and the earth. True Immortal Mirror Moon and the others felt a dull pain in their ears. The Thunder Emperor's gaze swept past True Immortal Mirror Moon and the others before finally landing on the absolute Thunder Godly Pillar. He said, "Seema, I'm afraid you never imagined that there would be a day when I would be able to escape. That's why you were so fearless. You sealed the frightening evil spear and used secret runes to create this absolute Thunder God Pillar." Frightened evil spear. Commander Prince Yunzhua couldn't help but ask, "What frightening evil spear?" True Immortal Mirror Moon and the others all had grave expressions on their faces. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, when the Thunder Emperor and King Jin fought, Commander Prince Yunzhua was not yet born. Naturally, he did not know that the frightening evil spear was the weapon that made the Thunder Emperor famous. The frightening evil spear could absorb and devour the lightning of the heavens and earth. It was the most effective against evil spirits. Once the frightening evil spear was used, all evil beings in the world would retreat. King Jin's absolute Thunder God Pillar was indeed made of extraterritorial divine stones. However, the Thunder Emperor's weapon, the frightening evil spear, was sealed within it. The frightening evil spear was a pure yang spiritual treasure of the 9 tribulations. The weapon spirit within was fierce and unyielding. Prince Jin originally wanted to destroy it, but he changed his mind and decided to seal it and suppress it within this stone pillar. This way, the Thunder Emperor and the frightening evil spear would never be able to rise again. This seal had lasted for hundreds of thousands of years. Apart from cutting off the lightning outside the ancient city, the absolute Thunder God Pillar also had another meaning. It was to cut off the lightning energy within the frightening evil spear. Any lightning energy would be absorbed and devoured by the runes on the absolute Thunder God Pillar. Therefore, when the Thunder Emperor wanted to destroy the absolute Thunder God Pillar, he was unable to shake it at all. However, the moment the Thunder Emperor touched the absolute Thunder God Pillar, he felt a familiar aura. He knew that his old friend who had fought alongside him for many years was inside this absolute Thunder God Pillar. The lightning energy could not shake the absolute Thunder God Pillar, but the prison's suppressing cauldron could. The Thunder Emperor had originally thought that this bronze cauldron was not a rare item. However, when he saw the bronze cauldron's weapon spirit clashing with the executioner saber in the 10-terminal formation, he gradually recalled the origins of this cauldron. This was the weapon of the arch from an ancient era that had passed away. With this weapon in hand, even a damaged one would be able to shatter the absolute Thunder God Pillar. The Thunder Emperor stretched out his hand and gently touched the absolute Thunder God Pillar. He murmured, "Old friend, you have been suppressed for hundreds of thousands of years. It's time for you to come out again." "Quick, stop him." True Immortal Mirror Moon realized something. Her expression changed drastically as she shouted. The other true immortals hurriedly made their moves. Numerous spiritual treasures, divine abilities, and secret techniques poured down on the Thunder Emperor as if they were going to drown him. The Thunder Emperor ignored them. He raised his arm and swung the prison's suppressing cauldron. He activated all the energy in his body and smashed it at the absolute Thunder God Pillar. Boom! The prison's suppressing cauldron landed on the absolute Thunder God Pillar. The spiritual treasures, divine abilities, and secret techniques all landed on the Thunder Emperor's body. 2 loud sounds could be heard almost at the same time. A huge crater was formed beside the absolute Thunder God Pillar. The Thunder Emperor lay there quietly, motionless. No one knew if he was dead or alive. Is he dead? True Immortal Mirror Moon and the others looked at each other, feeling uneasy. Under normal circumstances, the power of 11 true immortals working together was enough to kill any true immortal. However, that person was the Thunder Emperor. Chapter 1959. Suddenly, the figure in the deep pit moved slightly. This slight movement caused the hearts of True Immortal Mirror Moon and the others to tremble. The Thunder Emperor was not dead. Crack, crack. The cracks on the absolute Thunder God Pillar became bigger and denser. From these cracks, Rays of blazing light seeped out, emitting a terrifying aura. Even if they did not know what was sealed in the absolute thunder god pillar, they could guess that something terrifying was about to be born. Not good. True immortal Miramun's heart sank. The peerless weapon from back then was about to be born. Boom. Right at this moment, the absolute thunder divine pillar exploded with a loud bang. Rays of incomparably blazing lightning burst forth, seemingly tearing the void into pieces. A long spear surrounded by blue lightning slowly rose into the sky. The spear trembled, emitting an excited cry, filled with a monstrous battle intent. The entire absolute Thunder City was enveloped by this long spear, shaking and shaking. Rumble. Wind and clouds gathered, lightning flashed and thunder roared in the sky. A huge dark cloud vortex appeared once again, spreading for thousands of miles, covering the entire sky. The appearance of the absolute evil spear attracted the lightning in the sky. Countless lightning bolts poured down, forming a sea of lightning in the center of absolute Thunder City. The Thunder Emperor's figure slowly floated out of the deep pit, bathed in lightning. Just now, the injuries on his body were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Old friend. The Thunder Emperor stood in the sea of lightning. The absolute evil spear turned into a ray of lightning and returned to the Thunder Emperor's hand. The absolute evil spear trembled incessantly. The lightning was also blazing. The Thunder Emperor looked up to the sky, devouring the descending lightning bolts. In his sea of consciousness, the embryonic form of the sea of lightning was gradually taking shape. In absolute Thunder City, there was no one and nothing that could stop him from controlling lightning. The Thunder Emperor's aura continued to rise, as if there was no end to it. Attack! True immortal Miramun roared. The longer the Thunder Emperor absorbed the lightning, the stronger he would be. True immortal Miramun did not dare to imagine what level the Thunder Emperor would reach if this continued. The 11 true immortals attacked at the same time. Spiritual treasures, divine abilities, secret techniques, once again, surged forward. 9 heavens shocking thunder. The Thunder Emperor's eyes brightened, holding the absolute evil spear in his hand. The lightning in his palm suddenly burst out. Boom! Inside the terrorizing evil spear, a ball of incomparably bright light bloomed. It was even more dazzling than the sun. It spread out and enveloped the entire Thunder City. At that instant, all the cultivators in magnificent Thunder City were blinded. Even true immortal Miramun and the other true immortals cried out in shock. They could only see white light in front of them, and they couldn't see anything. Su Zimo quickly closed his eyes. The 9 heavens shocking thunder was a secret technique of the Void Lightning Manual, and it was extremely powerful. Once it was released, if one was unable to dodge in time, even if one were to execute an eye technique, it was unlikely that one would be able to withstand it. If a cultivator's cultivation was not high enough, their eyes would be blinded. Little brother, thank you for your cauldron. At this moment, the Thunder Emperor's voice rang out in his mind. Then, something else appeared in Su Zimo's mind. It was the prison's suppressing cauldron. Su Zimo's thoughts turned, and he immediately understood the Thunder Sovereign's intentions. The Thunder Emperor did not use the 9 heavens shocking thunder just to attack. He wanted to use this secret technique to temporarily blind the cultivators in magnificent Thunder City and take the opportunity to return the prison's suppressing cauldron to him. This cauldron has a great background. Now that it's exposed, you must use it carefully in the future to avoid attracting a strong enemy. The Thunder Emperor paused for a moment, as if he was still worried. He reminded Qin Nan again. In just a short while, true immortal Miramun and the other true immortals had regained their vision. Ha! True immortal Miramun burst out laughing despite the tears in her eyes. Feng Ken, you've been suppressed for hundreds of thousands of years. Your strength has yet to recover to its peak. Back then at the immortal gathering of the 9 heavens, you were still at your peak. When you released the 9 heavens shocking thunder, it blinded the eyes of a true immortal. Now it's only SOSO. The Thunder Emperor smirked. He held the terrorizing evil spear in his hand and glanced at the 11 true immortals disdainfully. He said proudly, "So what if I haven't recovered to my peak? Do you really think you can suppress me with just a bunch of rotten fish and shrimps, old and weak? How arrogant! How arrogant! The true immortals were enraged and scolded the Thunder Emperor. Even though they were old, they were still true immortals. Wherever they went, they would be respected. But now, they had become rotten fish and shrimps in the Thunder Emperor's mouth. Thongkinun, true immortal Mirror Moon said calmly, "How long can you be arrogant for? The executioner's saber has already flown away. The heavenly punishment king will sense it and come." Another true immortal said, "The heavenly thunder pillar has shattered. The heavenly punishment king will also sense it. At that time, the heavenly punishment king will capture you. Even if you recover to your peak, what can you do? The divine firmament of today is no longer the divine firmament of the past. Fong Kantion, you are nothing. Not to mention the divine firmament immortal realm, you can't even escape from the great Jin celestial kingdom." The true immortals surrounded the Thunder Emperor again. True immortal Mirror Moon and the other true immortals no longer planned to suppress the Thunder Emperor. They were only planning to delay the Thunder Emperor until the heavenly punishment king arrived. Then, the Thunder Emperor would not be able to escape. Su Zimo frowned slightly. True immortal Mirror Moon and the others clearly wanted to provoke the Thunder Emperor. They wanted him to stay here and fight with them while waiting for reinforcements. In mid-air, the Thunder Emperor raised his head slightly. Lightning surged in his eyes as he looked around and laughed. Good, good, good. A bunch of stinky fish and prawns. How dare you make a fuss in front of me? You just want to provoke me and delay me in this Thunder City. True immortal Mirror Moon and the others were not surprised by the Thunder Emperor's words. They just laughed coldly. I didn't want to bother with you. I wanted to leave immediately. The Thunder Emperor looked at the frightening evil spear in his hand and suddenly gripped it tightly. He nodded and said, "Fine, since that's the case, I'll do as you wish. It won't be too late to leave after I kill all of you." This was the Thunder Emperor's boldness. Leaving directly was reasonable, but it was not as satisfying as killing all the people in front of him. The frightening evil spear in the Thunder Emperor's hand paused in midair. The entire Thunder City shook violently. The city walls were full of cracks and looked like they were about to collapse. Many ancient buildings also began to collapse. Dust and smoke rose everywhere. Thunder City fell into chaos. Cries of agony could be heard everywhere. Many cultivators scattered in all directions. They wanted to leave Thunder City and get away from the battlefield. Su Zimo mixed in with the crowd. As he retreated, he looked back at the battlefield in midair. The Thunder Emperor and the 11 true immortals were already fighting fiercely. Even under the siege of the 11 true immortals, the Thunder Emperor's figure was still the most eye-catching. The Thunder Emperor was bathed in thunder and lightning. He held the frightening evil spear in his hand. Wherever the spear pointed, thunder and lightning would surge. Everyone had to avoid the spear. 2K Reading Net. Not only did the energy in his body not diminish, it even grew stronger. Bang! One of the true immortals could not dodge in time and was hit by the Thunder Emperor's fist. His entire body exploded on the spot, turning into ashes amidst the lightning. The Thunder Emperor held the frightening evil spear with both hands and fought against the many spirit treasures. The 4 hands that were free formed different hand seals. Although they seemed simple, each hand seal contained some kind of great Tao, deriving the power of lightning to the extreme. Su Zimo's eyes widened as he watched the Thunder Emperor's every move. When others watched this battle, they might only be shocked by the Thunder Emperor's strength. However, Su Zimo had obtained the Thunder Emperor's true legacy. While watching the battle, he also verified the Void Thunder Manual. Many things that he did not understand at the time were suddenly enlightened at this moment. A trace of understanding flowed through Su Zimo's heart. Although the Thunder Emperor was fighting against the various true immortals, he was also intentionally demonstrating the Thunder Art's legacy to him. After the battle, true immortal Mirror Moon and the others were greatly exhausted. Apart from him, the others were already in their old age. Now that they had experienced such a great battle, they felt that their stamina was somewhat lacking. On the other hand, The Thunder Emperor's strength was getting stronger and stronger. Die! The lightning accumulated in the Thunder Emperor's eyes had reached its limit. Suddenly, it burst out and landed on the body of a true immortal old man. Boom! The true immortal old man hurriedly raised his long sword to block in front of him. However, his long sword could not withstand the strike of the lightning at all. This true immortal expert was directly torn apart by the Thunder Emperor's eye technique and died. Haha! The Thunder Emperor reared his head and laughed. You're merely at the level of condensing quintessential essence. You can't even withstand a single look from me. How dare you come here to die? At the same time, the Thunder Emperor's spear changed suddenly. From being incomparably ferocious, it became as soft as water and broke through the defense of a true immortal, sending him flying. This change was truly shocking, and that person could not withstand it at all. After being pierced by the frightening evil spear, the power of lightning surged into his consciousness and destroyed his essence spirit. At the same time, the Thunder Emperor conjured hand seals with both hands, and a gigantic lightning prison descended, enveloping another true immortal expert. The Thunder Emperor's hands suddenly clasped together. The lightning prison also rapidly closed. The true immortal expert inside had nowhere to run. The moment his essence spirit flew out, it was electrocuted to death. Including true immortal Mirror Moon, there were originally 11 true immortals. But now, in less than 10 breaths, there were only 6 left on the battlefield. The 3-headed, 6-armed Thunder Emperor's aura was monstrous. With the frightening evil spear in his hand, he had completely gained the upper hand. Great lightning palm! The Thunder Emperor shouted softly and stretched out his palm. Across the void, he slapped down at the 2 true immortals. Surging berserk lightning flowed out from the Thunder Monarch's palm. Then, it continuously condensed in the air, forming a huge lightning palm. This gigantic lightning palm covered the sky and descended from the sky. The 2 true immortals could not dodge at all. They could only take out their numinous treasures and release all their mystic arts to resist. However, these numinous treasures and mystic arts could not stop the descent of the great lightning palm. Bang! The great lightning palm smashed down, shaking the world. Thunder City, which was already on the verge of collapse, completely collapsed at this moment. There were only 3 true immortals left. The 3 true immortals were deeply regretful. Why did they provoke this person? This person was Feng Kenton, the peerless true immortal who had fought against King Jin in the past. Even if they let him go, what could they do? Now that the divine firmament celestial realm had changed, even if he could escape from here, it would be difficult for him to find a place to stay in the divine firmament continent. At this thought, the 2 true immortals split into 2 directions and turned around to escape. The Thunder Emperor sneered. Lightning flashed around his body and he chased after one of them. At the same time, he threw the frightening evil spear behind him. It was like lightning streaking across the night sky, instantly piercing through the other true immortal expert. The Thunder Emperor killed another person. 2K Reading Network. Chapter 1961. Before the escaping perfected immortal could run far, he heard the crackling of lightning behind him. It arrived in an instant and was shockingly fast. No matter how fast this old man's movement technique was, it could not compare to the Thunder Emperor's speed. Feng Kenan. Seeing that it was difficult for him to escape, the perfected immortal old man stopped abruptly. With a mournful expression, he shouted, "You've gone too far." "I've gone too far?" The Thunder Emperor sneered. "Compared to your methods, I'm already being merciful by killing you." The heavenly punishment monarch had imprisoned the Thunder Emperor in the dungeon under Thunder City for hundreds of thousands of years. Furthermore, he was chained up and nailed to a stone pillar with a saber piercing through his body. Such physical, mental, and psychological torture was simply unimaginable. Compared to that, death was not worth mentioning at all. "Feng Kenan, I'll fight it out with you." The perfected immortal old man's eyes widened. A brilliant light burst out from his glabella, and a heart-palpitating aura spread out. "You want to self-destruct your Tao fruit?" The Thunder Emperor narrowed his eyes slightly. The power of a Dao fruit's self-destruction was unparalleled. However, if a Dao fruit self-destructed, it might not even be possible to enter the cycle of reincarnation and be reborn. Therefore, generally speaking, perfected immortals who had cultivated to a certain level would not choose this path. But now, this perfected immortal old man had fallen into a frenzy. In order to fight the Thunder Emperor, he did not care about anything else. "You don't even have the chance to self-destruct in front of me." The Thunder Emperor snorted coldly. Suddenly, he opened his mouth and let out a deafening sound of thunder. This sound of thunder directly pierced the perfected immortal old man's eardrums. 2 streams of blood spurted out from his ears. This sound of thunder was like a huge spear that went through his ears and pierced through his head. This perfected immortal old man only felt a boom in his mind. His consciousness went blank, and his body trembled violently. His Dao fruit had already shattered, but he was heavily injured by the Thunder Emperor's sound domain secret technique. He was stunned on the spot, and his eyes were glazed over. The Thunder Emperor stepped forward and casually stabbed him to death with his spear. This battle did not last long. Of the 11 perfected immortals, only perfected immortal Mirror Moon was left. The cultivators who had escaped from the city looked back. The Thunder Emperor stood on top of the ruins of Absolute Thunder City. Beneath his feet were the corpses of 10 true immortals. He held the frightening evil spear in his hand and stood proudly with a peerless demeanor. This city had suppressed and imprisoned the Thunder Emperor for hundreds of thousands of years. Now that the Thunder Emperor had broken free, he overturned Thunder City and trampled it under his feet. True immortal Mirror Moon also stood on the ruins, not choosing to flee. He knew that with the Thunder Emperor's methods, even if he wanted to escape, it was utterly impossible. Suddenly, Thunder Emperor clutched his chest and coughed heavily a few times. The Thunder Emperor's body trembled violently, and his face turned pale. It seemed that something had happened to his body. True immortal Mirror Moon's gaze flickered. The clothes on the Thunder Emperor's chest were dyed red, and it was extremely dazzling. True immortal Mirror Moon clearly remembers that just now, when they were besieging the Thunder Emperor, they did not manage to hit the Thunder Emperor's chest. Moreover, even if they had injured the Thunder Emperor before, the Thunder Emperor had obtained the frightening evil spear and was able to communicate with the power of thunder and lightning of heaven and earth. His injuries had already healed. This bloodstain, true immortal Mirror Moon's heart skipped a beat. She quickly understood the reason behind this. Executioner's saber. The wound on the Thunder Emperor's chest should have been left behind by the Executioner's saber. The Executioner's saber was the Heavenly Punisher King's paradise spiritual treasure. It had nailed the Thunder Emperor to the stone pillar for hundreds of thousands of years, leaving behind a wound that even the Thunder Emperor would not be able to heal. After the Thunder Emperor had broken free, he had been suppressing this wound. However, just now, a huge battle had affected this wound, and the old wound had relapsed, causing the bloodstain to seep out. In just a short while, the clothes on the Thunder Emperor's chest had been dyed red with blood. One could see how serious his injury was. When Su Zimo saw this scene, he started to worry for the Thunder Emperor. True immortal Mirror Moon was not far away. Her eyes flickered, and her expression changed. She seemed to want to attack, but also seemed to be afraid of something. After a long silence, true immortal Mirror Moon's body moved. She did not attack the Thunder Emperor. Instead, she retreated and distanced herself from the Thunder Emperor. She did not know if the Thunder Emperor's current appearance was a disguise. She also did not know how much the wound on the Thunder Emperor's chest would affect him. She did not dare to take the risk. Even though the Thunder Emperor in front of her seemed extremely weak, she did not dare to attack. Instead, she took the opportunity to escape. Haha. Seeing this scene, the Thunder Emperor laughed and said with a mocking expression, "A cowardly rat can also become the governor of a county?" True immortal Mirror Moon did not say a word. Her expression was cautious as she watched the Thunder Emperor's every move. "Forget it. I'll spare your life today." The Thunder Emperor said indifferently, "Go back and tell Tian Xing and Sima that I, Feng Kenan, have returned. Tell them to wash their necks and wait for me to come personally." After saying this, The Thunder Emperor's body flickered with lightning. Holding the evil spear, he took large strides and sped off into the distance. True Immortal Miramon's expression showed that she was struggling. She clenched her fists and then loosened them again. This repeated several times. In the end, she did not chase after him. Su Zimo saw this scene and shook his head inwardly. True Immortal Mirror Moon had lost her last chance to make the Thunder Emperor stay. The Thunder Emperor's personality was extremely heroic. He did not care about pretending to be seriously injured to lure True Immortal Mirror Moon out. In the end, the Thunder Emperor left directly. This also meant that the Thunder Emperor's chest injury was very serious. It would be difficult for him to kill True Immortal Mirror Moon. It was also because of this that the Thunder Emperor chose to leave. Chapter 1962. Su Zimo looked at the ruins in Juele City and felt pity. There were still many spiritual treasure fragments in the ruins. Most of them had been shattered by the evil spear. These spiritual treasure fragments were useless to others, but they were very useful to the prison's suppressing cauldron. If he could devour them, he could start to repair the third wall of the cauldron. However, Su Zimo weighed the pros and cons and gave up on the idea. Although the temptation was great, it was too dangerous. There was no need to take this risk at such a sensitive and chaotic time. There would be other opportunities in the future. Su Zimo blended into the crowd and walked into the distance. He did not dare to walk too fast in case he attracted the attention of others. Suddenly, an extremely terrifying aura descended from the sky. The entire world seemed to be unable to bear the pressure and trembled slightly. This aura was much stronger than that of the Thunder Emperor and True Immortal Mirror Moon. Everyone was aghast as they raised their heads to look. In the sky, the clouds changed and a piece of the void suddenly collapsed in the middle, forming a huge black vortex. In this black vortex, a figure was faintly discernible. His entire body was filled with a murderous aura. It was eerie and terrifying. Many mystic immortals could not bear the pressure and knelt on the ground. Their faces were pale and they were silent. Immortal King. Only an immortal king could release such a terrifying aura. The cultivators on the ground even had a feeling that the figure in the sky could kill them all with a single breath. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes and looked at the high and mighty figure in the sky. This was an immortal king. With his current cultivation, he was still a terrifying existence that he could not reach. If he wanted to take revenge on King Yunyu, he had to reach such a level. Greetings, Heaven Punishment King. When True Immortal Mirror Moon saw this person, she quickly knelt down and kowtowed. She looked terrified and said, "That sinner from the lower world has escaped from Juele City. Mirror Moon's sin is unforgivable. Heaven Punishment King, please punish me." Get up first. In the black vortex, a voice sounded. It was sonorous and powerful. True Immortal Mirror Moon quickly stood up. What happened? The Heavenly Punishment King asked. The Mirror Moon True Immortal quickly recounted everything that had happened in Pure Thunder City. She did not dare to conceal anything. Someone is helping him. After the Heavenly Punishment Monarch heard this, he said 4 words. Mirror Moon True Immortal was so scared that her entire body trembled. She knelt down again and said, "Reporting to Immortal King, this subordinate really doesn't know. I also didn't discover anyone helping Feng Can Tian leave. Others might not understand the 10-terminal formation that well. However, the Heaven Punishment King knew that without the help of an outsider, it was impossible for the Thunder Emperor to break free by himself." True Immortal Mirror Moon added, "I'll give the order to imprison all the cultivators just now and interrogate them one by one." "No need." The Tianxing King said indifferently, "If this person wanted to help, he would have left long ago. How could he still be here? Besides, the person who pulled out my executioner's saber must be at least a true immortal. There are no other true immortals here aside from you." How powerful was the Heaven Punishment King's divine sense? With just a light sweep, it covered hundreds of thousands of miles around Juele City. Not a single living thing could escape his senses. Su Zimo lowered his head and no longer looked at the Heaven Punishment King to avoid attracting attention. "He was injured by my executioner's saber and can't escape. If he can escape, I can catch him again. The Heaven Punishment King snorted. Mirror Moon, you didn't deal with the ice butterfly that appeared in Cyan Cloud County. Today, something like this happened again. The Heaven Punishment King's tone was cold, like the edge of a saber, making people shudder. Mirror Moon True Immortal was sweating profusely. She quickly bowed and said, Mirror Moon deserves to die. Heaven Punishment King, please spare my life. There was no sound from the pitch-black vortex for a long time. This period of silence felt like a year to true immortal Mirror Moon. After a long time, the Heaven Punishment King's voice sounded again. You were in Jewel City, but you couldn't stop Feng Kantion. You can avoid death, but you can't escape punishment. As soon as he finished speaking, a golden light burst out from the pitch-black vortex and instantly landed on Mirror Moon True Immortal's body. Poochie. Blood flashed. One of Mirror Moon True Immortal's arms was cut off by the golden light. Blood gushed out from the wound like a fountain. Today, I'll cut off your arm temporarily. When that sinner is caught again, your arm will be restored to its original state. The Heaven Punishment King said indifferently. Thank you, Heaven Punishment King, for sparing my life. Mirror Moon True Immortal was sweating profusely from the pain, but she still kowtowed in gratitude. The Heaven Punishment King was in charge of punishment and killing in the Great Gene Celestial Nation. Today, he had cut off one of her arms. Normally speaking, if a true immortal expert lost an arm, they would be able to regrow it with a single thought. However, Mirror Moon True Immortal's wound was covered with a layer of faint golden light. This was the power of the Heaven Punishment King. As long as this golden light existed, her severed arm would never be able to regrow. Moreover, even if she could regrow her severed arm, Mirror Moon True Immortal did not have the guts to do so. Seeing this, Su Zimo sighed. Mirror Moon True Immortal was the governor of a county. Whether it was her strength, status, or reputation, she was in the upper echelons of the Great Gene Celestial Nation. However, in front of the Heaven Punishment King, one word from him could decide her fate. This was the cruelty of the upper realm. Even a true immortal expert could not withstand a single blow from an immortal king. Mirror Moon True Immortal was like this today. The Thunder Emperor was even more miserable back then. After a while, the pitch-black vortex in the sky gradually closed, and the figure inside disappeared. That terrifying aura also gradually dissipated. Many cultivators heaved a sigh of relief, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from their shoulders. Just now that the Heaven Punishment King had appeared, everyone felt as if there was a chilling guillotine hanging above their heads, ready to chop them down at any time. After the Heaven Punishment King left, Mirror Moon True Immortal stood up and looked at the many city lords and exalted immortals not far away. She said in a low voice, Everyone, go back now. Gather your men and search for Feng Santian's whereabouts. Don't let go of any clues. Yes. Many city lords and exalted immortals quickly responded and scattered. Mirror Moon True Immortal pondered for a while, tidied up the battlefield, and left the ruins of Thunder City. Su Zimo was secretly worried. He could foresee that after today, all the immortal soldiers guarding the Great Gene Celestial Nation would be mobilized to search for any suspicious person. He wondered if the Thunder Emperor could escape the pursuit of the entire Great Gene Celestial Nation. Taking a deep breath, Su Zimo suppressed his worries for the time being. With his current cultivation, even if he wanted to, he could not help much. The most important thing for him now was to cultivate in seclusion and break through to the Earth Origin realm as soon as possible. This time, he had gained a lot from the 10-terminal formation. If he could comprehend something after cultivating in seclusion, he might be able to become an Earth Immortal within 100 years. Just as Su Zimo was thinking, a warning flashed in his heart. 2K Reading Net. Chapter 1963. There were many cultivators in Absolute Thunder City. Because of this battle, Absolute Thunder City was reduced to ruins, and there were at least tens of millions of cultivators who had nowhere to go and were retreating out of the city. Su Zimo mixed in with the crowd and suddenly sensed that something was amiss. The surrounding crowd was in chaos. However, in the midst of the chaos, dozens of cultivators walked in his direction and gradually surrounded him. More importantly, he sensed an intense killing intent. Those dozens of cultivators were all Stage 9 mystic immortals. If he was not wrong, they should be participants of the hunt just now. However, Su Zimo was puzzled. He did not know these people and did not have any conflicts with them in the 10 Extremes prison. Why were they targeting him? The dozens of Stage 9 mystic immortals were closing in on him. Initially, these people were still hiding in the crowd and trying their best to cover their tracks. But now, their eyes were ferocious as they summoned their Dharma treasures and weapons, not concealing their killing intent at all. Su Zimo stopped in his tracks and surveyed his surroundings, asking coldly, "What are you guys trying to do?" "Kill you." One of them hollered and leaped up, wielding a Chaos Essence iron rod in his hands and smashing it towards Su Zimo's head. He was the first to strike. Su Zimo's expression was calm and he did not even look. He only struck when the Chaos Essence iron rod was about to hit his head. It struck first despite striking later. Su Zimo's fair palm caught the Chaos Essence iron rod in the center of his palm and it did not budge at all. The Stage 9 Mystic Immortal's eyes widened in shock. The Chaos Essence iron rod was a superior-grade mystic-grade Dharma treasure. Although it was not of a high grade, it had the advantage of being heavy and was comparable to supreme-grade mystic-grade Dharma treasures. But now, this seemingly frail green-robed cultivator before him had actually caught his Chaos Essence iron rod with his bare hands. No matter how he channeled his strength, the Chaos Essence iron rod seemed to be stuck to the green-robed cultivator's palm and could not budge at all. At that moment, he was still in midair and could not move up or down. What sort of monstrous strength is that? The Stage 9 Mystic Immortal was shocked. At this moment, Su Zimo gripped the primordial Chaos Iron Staff tightly and pushed it forward. The 9th Stage Mystic Immortal let out a miserable shriek as he completely lost his grip on the primordial Chaos Iron Staff. His palms were rubbed until they were dripping with blood. The next moment, the primordial Chaos Iron Rod pierced his chest and came out from his back. The primordial steel staff in Su Zimo's hand was like a great spear, piercing through this person. This was not the 10 Extremes prison. The city lords and exalted immortals who were a threat to Su Zimo had already left. There was no need for him to be concerned. In his heart, he really did not want to fight with these Xian immortals from the lower realms. But if the other party wanted to take his life, he wouldn't hold back either. Su Zimo exerted strength in his palm, and the primordial iron staff shook slightly. This Stage 9 Mystic Immortal's body was instantly shattered into pieces by the primordial Chaos Iron Rod. Blood splattered everywhere as he died on the spot. The remaining Xian Immortals were not afraid at all. Their eyes turned red as they roared and attacked one after another. Dozens of Dharma treasures descended. Fixed body art. Call the wind. Summon the rain. Purple star hand. Many minor mystiques and secret techniques were activated at the same time and surged forward. Su Zimo's blood chi was strong. Even if he did not use the bloodline of Qinglian's true body, he only needed to shake slightly to break free from the fixed body art's restraint. Su Zimo's body moved, and a golden light shot out from where he was standing. He shuttled through the Dharma treasures, mystiques, and secret techniques with ease. To deal with these Xian immortals, he only needed to use the heaven's feet and the earth-traversing golden light, 2 minor mystiques. Bang! Su Zimo raised the primordial Chaos Iron Rod that just now had snatched and smashed it on the head of a Stage 9 Mystic Immortal, causing his head to bleed and his brain to burst open. Then he did not stop. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of another Stage 9 Mystic Immortal and smashed the primordial Chaos Iron Rod at his waist. Bang! This Stage 9 Mystic Immortal was sent flying and was broken into 2 by the primordial Chaos Iron Rod. Su Zimo's figure turned into a golden light and swept through the crowd. There was no one who could stop him. Everywhere he went, there would be a Stage 9 Mystic Immortal who would be sent flying. If they were not killed, they would be injured. This was not a siege. This was a one-sided suppression. Not long after, dozens of Stage 9 Mystic Immortals were all suppressed by Su Zimo alone. The remaining Mystic Immortals were scared out of their wits. They looked terrified and ran away without looking back. Su Zimo was too lazy to chase after them. He threw away the primordial chaos iron rod and prepared to leave. At this moment, a few screams came from not far away. Su Zimo looked sideways and saw that the few mystic immortals who had escaped just now had been cut in half by some sharp weapon. They were dead. Above the corpses of the mystic immortals, there were a few women in chiffon clothes. They were holding a long sword that was as thin as a cicada's wing. With a flick of their wrists, the swords flew back into their sleeves with a whoosh sound and disappeared without a trace. Clap, clap, clap. At this moment, the sound of clapping could be heard from the air not far away. Wonderful! A man's voice was heard and he praised. Su Zimo did not have to look back to know who that person was. Duke Yuanzhua. Just now, the few women in chiffon clothes were the servants of Duke Yuanzhua. Su Zimo turned around. He saw a carriage stopped in midair. It was surrounded by thousands of beautiful women. In the carriage, a young man was leaning against it. It was Duke Yuanzhua. This person did not leave. Just now Thunder Emperor had fought against 11 genuine immortals. He saw with his own eyes that Duke Yuanzhua had left Thunder City. He did not expect Duke Yuanzhua to come back. The Thunder Emperor had just escaped and was at the peak of his power. Even perfected immortals had fallen one after another. Yet, Duke Yuanzhua, who was only an Earth immortal, had the guts to return. This was beyond Su Zimo's expectations. Duke Yuanzhua stood up from the carriage and looked at Su Zimo. He said with a smile, "I was right. You are not weak." Although the Thunder Emperor's escape forced the hunting gathering to stop, Duke Yuanzhua did not give up on his plan. This matter was too important to him. Someone like the Thunder Emperor would be dealt with by Tian Xingwang and his brother. It was not up to him to worry about what his father would do. At the same time, Su Zimo understood what was going on. Just now Duke Yuanzhua must have ordered the hundreds of thousands of Stage 9 mystic immortals to attack him. Duke Yuanzhua's purpose was to test his strength. In fact, when they were fighting, Su Zimo had a feeling that he was being spied on. However, there were many people around and it was normal for him to feel that way. It was hard to tell if the other party had any ill intentions. Su Zimo did not say anything and secretly observed his surroundings. There were 3,000 women around Duke Yuanzhua. Although they were all at the earthly realm, almost all of them surrounded Duke Yuanzhua. If he used his special ability, the rock wings, he would definitely have a chance to escape. Right then, Su Zimo's gaze shifted. When he caught sight of someone, he suppressed that thought for the time being. 2K Reading Network. It was only now that he understood the purpose of Tang Zi's warning. This hunting list was the real threat. Even if he could escape with his extreme speed divine sense imprint on the hunting list, it would be difficult for him to escape from Commandery Prince Yuanzhua's detection. Therefore, he would be constantly hunted down. No matter where he was, no matter how hidden he was, it would be difficult for him to escape from Commandery Prince Yuanzhua's detection. At that time, he was indeed doomed. When Su Zimo had left his divine sense imprint on the hunting list, he had been somewhat conflicted. However, the situation forced him to do so and he had no choice. He did not expect that this divine sense imprint would become a sharp sword hanging over his head that could slash down at any time. Su Zimo heaved a sigh of relief and temporarily gave up on the idea of escaping. He also wanted to see what Commandery Prince Yuanzhua was up to by going through so much trouble to select 100 mystic immortals who were absolutely loyal to him. Let's go back. Commandery Prince Yuanzhua waved his hand and returned to his carriage. Immediately, women came forward and massaged his shoulders and legs. It was a relaxing scene. Su Zimo came to the center of the 100 people. They were on a small immortal ship. Inside the ship, there were also clothes, immortal fruits, wine, and even healing elixirs prepared for them. Li Tian and the others were all covered in wounds after the battle in the 10 Extremes prison. They needed these things and quickly dispersed. On the deck of the immortal ship, there were only a few people. Although Tang Zi had killed many people in the 10 Extremes prison, she was clean and did not have any bloodstains. With her personality, she would not gather with others to drink and have fun. Tang Zi stood on the deck and looked at the sky in front of her calmly. No one knew what she was thinking. Su Zimo was about to go forward when Tang Zi's voice suddenly rang out in his mind. "Don't come over." Tang Zi's back was facing Su Zimo. She did not turn around and only spoke with her divine sense. "What?" Su Zimo's divine sense moved and asked in return. Tang Zi said, "You'd better pretend that you don't know me to avoid trouble." After a pause, Tang Zi added, "Besides, I just returned you a favor, so I still owe you one." Su Zimo shrugged. He had helped Tang Zi mainly because of the Thunder Emperor. He did not care at all and did not expect Tang Zi to return the favor. However, Tang Zi was very serious about this and was very clear about it. She did not want to owe anyone anything. "What do you want?" Su Zimo asked again with his divine sense. Tang Zi remained silent, as if she did not want to talk to Su Zimo. Su Zimo did not give up. He continued to ask, "When Duke Yunzhua retreated, I noticed that you followed him secretly. It's none of your business. You'd better not ask." After a long silence, Tang Zi finally spoke in a cold tone. Su Zimo smiled. Assassinate the Duke? Su Zimo vaguely guessed that Tang Zi's target was most likely the Duke Yunzhua. However, he also knew that there was no chance for him to get close to the Duke, let alone assassinate the Duke. Not to mention that the Duke Yunzhua's cultivation was higher than Tang Zi's. The 3,000 Earth-level deity beauties around the Duke Yunzhua were enough to give him a headache. Chapter 1965. To an assassin, patience was the most important thing. If there was no suitable opportunity, Tang Zi would rather continue to wait than act rashly. This was especially true for someone like the Duke of Yunzhua, whose cultivation was a realm higher than hers. If she made a mistake, she would definitely die. She would not even have the chance to escape. If there was no opportunity, she could wait for a year, 10 years, or even hundreds or thousands of years. She only had 2 goals for coming here. One of them was the Thunder Emperor. Although she had the true dragon water-repelling pearl, she knew that even if she could break through the 10-terminal formation, she would not be able to save the Thunder Emperor. In her heart, she only wanted to see the Thunder Emperor. That was enough. After failing to break through the formation, she had thought that she would never have the chance to see the Thunder Emperor again. However, what happened next was completely beyond her imagination. Not only did she see the Thunder Emperor with her own eyes, but she also saw the Thunder Emperor break free and kill 10 perfected immortal powerhouses before leaving. New August 1st Chinese website. At that moment, her face was expressionless, but her heart was filled with indescribable joy. Now that the Thunder Emperor had broken free, she only had 2 goals left. The Duke of Yunzhua. Of course, these were all her worries and secrets. Even if she still owed Su Zimo a favor, she could not tell him this. What is the real purpose of the Duke of Yunzhua's hunting gathering this time? Right then, Su Zimo asked again. Tang Zi replied calmly, "Didn't he say that he would choose 100 absolutely loyal followers to give us a chance to change our fates?" "Huh?" Su Zimo chuckled and asked, "Do you really believe such nonsense?" "Why not?" Tang Zi asked in return. Su Zimo replied, "Given his status, there's no need for him to go through so much trouble if he wants 100 absolutely loyal followers. All he has to do is wave his hand, and all the disciples of the major sects and aristocratic families will flock to him. We won't have a chance. Moreover, the hunting gathering is originally a game for the exalted immortals. They take pleasure in manipulating the fates of the people in the lower realm. Why would Commandery Prince Yunzhua choose 100 people out of kindness and give them a chance to change their fates? This matter conflicts with each other and is extremely laughable." Tang Zi snorted. "Humph, you're not stupid. You can see through it." Su Zimo was slightly taken aback. This was an extremely rare occasion for Tang Zi to speak with a hint of emotion. Su Zimo was stunned. For a moment, he couldn't tell whether Tang Zi was praising him or mocking him. The logic behind this is very simple. Tang Zi quickly returned to normal and said calmly, "It's a pity that out of these 100 people, no one else can figure it out." Su Zimo was silent for a while before he said, "Perhaps it's not that they don't understand, but that they don't want to understand. Tang Zi fell into deep thought after hearing his words. Reality was a little cruel. Therefore, everyone's heart would subconsciously avoid it. They would rather move forward with a glimmer of hope. Do you know about the emperor's tomb? After a while, Tang Zi asked through voice transmission. Emperor's tomb? Su Zimo frowned slightly. I don't know. For some reason, this name sounded a little sinister. Tang Zi said, the emperor's tomb is originally a broken world. It drifts in the void turbulence of the upper realm and its location is uncertain. Legend has it that an immortal emperor is buried there. That's why it's called the emperor's tomb. Su Zimo was shocked. The tomb of an immortal emperor. There are many legends about the emperor's tomb. Some say that there are countless rare treasures, cultivation methods, and secret techniques in the emperor's tomb. Some say that there's a shocking secret hidden in the emperor's tomb, Tang Zi said. Recently, the emperor's tomb appeared in a void in the divine cloud continent. I speculate that Commandery Prince Yunzu's hunt might be related to this emperor's tomb. Su Zimo said in a low voice, he wants us to enter the emperor's tomb? Should be. Tang Zi answered. A tomb that might contain an immortal emperor, and we can enter it as we wish with our cultivation? Su Zimo found it hard to believe. Normally, even Earth immortals and Sky immortals were not qualified to enter such a tomb, let alone them. If this was really an emperor's tomb, it would contain treasures collected by an immortal emperor. They would never have a chance to enter. Tang Zi said, this emperor's tomb is a little special. Legend has it that the immortal emperor buried here died from a powerful curse. The curse? Su Zimo squinted. In terms of curse arts, the shaman tribe was the strongest. Back in the Tianhuang continent, there were even shaman tribe experts from the upper realm who wanted to kill everyone. Luckily, Dai Yu intervened and resolved the disaster. If the rumors were true, a curse art that could kill an immortal emperor must be the work of an expert from the shaman tribe. Tang Zi continued, after this immortal emperor died, the power of the curse in his body didn't disappear. Instead, it spread throughout the tomb, spreading to every corner. It has been there ever since. How long has it been since the immortal emperor died? Su Zimo suddenly asked. Tang Zi said, it should be more than 10 million years. Su Zimo was speechless. The curse force in the emperor's tomb was too terrifying. It did not disappear even after 10 million years. If even an immortal emperor could not withstand the curse force, wouldn't it be suicide for 100 of us to enter? Su Zimo sneered. Not necessarily. Tang Zi said, many people have entered the emperor's tomb in the past 10 million years to search for its secrets. The curse force is a little strange. The higher a cultivator's cultivation, the stronger the curse force. So you're saying that the curse force is the most harmful to experts like an immortal emperor? Su Zimo asked. That's right. Tang Zi said, when the emperor's tomb first appeared, an immortal emperor entered and was unavoidably infected by the curse force. He died not long after he came out. Immortal Emperor of the Grotto Heaven Realm. Above the Grotto Heaven Realm was the Immortal Emperor Realm. The most common title for immortal emperors was Immortal Emperor. Of course, in the Nine Heavens Immortal Realm, most immortal emperors were called Immortal Emperors, such as the Divine Firmament Immortal Emperor. In the vast wilderness, most of them were called Demon Emperors. Above the Immortal Emperors were the Immortal Emperors mentioned by Tian Lang. Su Zimo was even more shocked. Such a curse force could last for 10 million years and kill other immortal emperors. It was hard to imagine how terrifying the person who had set up the curse force was. After that immortal emperor died, no other immortal emperors dared to enter. Tang Zi continued, over the past tens of thousands of years, more than 20 King Realm experts have died because they entered the emperor's tomb and were cursed. The number of true immortals and sky immortals who died in the tomb is even more unimaginable. Chapter 1966. Tang Zi said, because of the curse, almost no true immortals or nobles have tried to enter the tomb in recent years. The higher one's cultivation, the greater the effect of the curse. Su Zimo muttered, So you're saying that arcane immortals who enter the tomb will suffer the least damage from the curse? That's right, Tang Zi said, but that doesn't mean that the curse is harmless. Every living thing that enters the tomb, regardless of race, will be affected by the curse. No one can avoid it. Of course, this curse is not fatal to arcane immortals. Su Zimo understood what Tang Zi was implying. He asked, if it's not fatal, what other effects will it have? That's hard to say. Tang Zi said, if the curse is not removed, it'll be difficult for one to reach Earth immortal in their lifetime. Their lifespan will be depleted, and their body will suffer all kinds of ailments. Su Zimo gradually understood. No wonder Duke Yuanzhua did not look for disciples from other sects or families. This was because there was no sect or clan that would send their direct disciples or bloodline descendants into the Emperor tomb. If the curse was not removed, it would affect the cultivator's life. It was very likely that a prodigy of a generation would fall and disappear from the world. However, among the cultivators who ascended from the lower realm, Duke Yuanzhua could casually choose 100 people to enter the emperor's tomb under his command. These cultivators from the lower realm would be grateful to Duke Yuanzhua. Tang Zi said, once sky immortals and true immortals enter the tomb, they'll be affected by the curse and won't be able to return. Although we'll also be affected by the curse, we'll be the least affected. In the tomb, we'll be able to move freely and even fight. As long as we don't stay in the tomb for too long, we'll be able to return alive. Su Zimo asked, why does Duke Yuanzhua want us to enter the tomb? I don't know. Tang Zi shook her head. Su Zimo fell into deep thought. According to Tang Zi, there was once an immortal emperor buried in the emperor's tomb. Not to mention the rare treasures and secret techniques that the immortal emperor had collected throughout his life, even the true immortals and nobles who had died here had countless treasures. It was very likely that Duke Yuanzhua wanted them to enter the emperor's tomb to search for treasures or inheritances. But no matter what, the emperor tomb was absolutely a dangerous place. It wasn't just the strange curse. Now that the great imperial tomb had appeared on Godly Cloud's continent, apart from them, there must be other exalted celestials who had sent Xian celestials into the great imperial tomb to find opportunities for them. Not to mention the other celestial realms. Just the divine firmament celestial realm alone had 3 great celestial kingdoms and countless sects of all sizes. If the two sides met, a battle would be unavoidable. This was also the reason why Commandery Prince Yuanzhua spent so much effort to select 100 Xian immortals who were good at fighting and had powerful combat strength. If it wasn't necessary, even if he knew about a secret like the Emperor's tomb, Su Zimo wouldn't risk his life. But now, the situation forced him to do so. He had no choice. The security on this celestial ship was not very tight. But even if he could escape, his divine sense mark was still on the hunting list. As long as Commandery Prince Yuanzhua wanted to, he could find him at any time. This was a huge threat. It was as if Commandery Prince Yuanzhua had a sharp sword hanging over his neck and could cut him down at any time. He had to think of a way to solve this problem to prevent future troubles. As Su Zimo pondered, his eyes fell on Tang Zi. If Tang Zi's target was really Commandery Prince Yuanzhua, the two of them could work together. But even if the two of them worked together, it would be difficult to defeat Commandery Prince Yuanzhua. Su Zimo's divine sense could only vaguely sense that Commandery Prince Yuanzhua was an Earth Immortal, but he couldn't clearly see what level of Earth Immortal he was at. Moreover, Commandery Prince Yuanzhua was of noble status and had the blood of King Jin flowing in his body. Since he was young, he had been in contact with top elites. Who knew what trump cards he had? Moreover, Tang Zi was proud and arrogant. She was a loner and probably would not work with him. You've been staring at me for so long. What are you thinking about? Tang Zi's voice suddenly rang in Su Zimo's mind. Her tone was unfriendly, with a hint of anger. Su Zimo rubbed his chin and stared at her back for a long time. She thought that Su Zimo was harboring some evil thoughts and couldn't help but feel annoyed. Nothing. Su Zimo looked away and replied casually, putting the matter aside for the time being. Tang Zi saw this and thought that Su Zimo was guilty. She said coldly, I do owe you a favor. But I'm warning you, don't have any dirty thoughts. Su Zimo was confused. He didn't know what was wrong with this woman. he asked. What do you mean by dirty thoughts? Tang Zi was speechless. She gritted her teeth and stopped talking. The immortal ship carried everyone at an extremely fast speed. In less than 3 days, they arrived at Mufeng City, which was the closest to Thunder City. Then, they entered Mufeng City and used the teleportation formation to arrive at the central city of Azure Cloud County, Azure Cloud City. There were 16 counties in the territory of the Dajin Celestial Nation. Each county had a central city. Generally speaking, the Commandery Prince and the Commandery Governor were in these 16 central cities. The moment they arrived at Azure Cloud City, they could feel that the atmosphere in the city was clearly not right. It was extremely oppressive. Every part of the city was heavily guarded. There were guards patrolling the city walls at all times. The cultivators in the city were in a hurry. Their gazes were filled with fear, and everyone was panicking. Traces of the executioner's guards could be seen everywhere in the ancient city. The impact of the Thunder Emperor's escape was gradually showing. As long as the Thunder Emperor was not captured, many people in the Dajin Celestial Nation would not be able to eat or sleep in peace as time passed. Of course, no matter how heavily guarded the ancient city was, they would not dare to block the carriage of Commandery Prince Yuanzhua. Su Zimo and the others rode on the immortal ship and followed Commandery Prince Yuanzhua's carriage. It was a smooth journey and they arrived at the Commandery Prince's residence. Su Zimo and the others did not have the chance to rest as a maidservant brought them to a grand hall. This hall was grand and magnificent, and it was filled with jewels and treasures. Unimaginable luxury could be seen everywhere. Chapter 1968. Buried the Immortal Emperor. Those words were too shocking for most of the cultivators present. Even though Su Zimo had heard about the emperor's tomb from Tang Zi, he still felt an indescribable pressure when he entered this place. It was an indescribable feeling. It was more like the majesty of an immortal emperor. Even though the immortal emperor had died thousands of years ago, his majesty was still there. Everyone was only in the arcane Aeon realm. To them, entering the tomb of an earth immortal or sky immortal was a rare opportunity. But the tomb of an immortal emperor, cultivators who could ascend to the immortal realm were not fools. They could tell that this tomb was not a good place. Even if what Duke Yuanzhua said was true, there were unimaginable treasures and secret techniques inside. There would be unbearable dangers. Since we're here, I don't mind telling you that all of you are cursed. If you want to live, you have to find the Jade Talisman as soon as possible. I'll bring you back to the Duke's mansion. His Highness will help you get rid of the curse. The skinny old man said. How do we get back to the Duke's mansion? Su Zimo suddenly asked. When he entered the Emperor's tomb, he found that there was no exit. In the Duke's mansion, they used the teleportation formation to break the tomb's barrier and enter this place. But there was no teleportation formation in the Emperor's tomb. The fat old man snorted. You don't have to ask. Once you find the Jade Talisman, we'll find a way to bring you back. Tang Zi's voice rang in Su Zimo's mind. Even arcane immortals can't stay in the Emperor's tomb for more than a year. Otherwise, they won't be able to get rid of the curse no matter how powerful they are. Also, if you feel the earth shaking, it means that the Emperor's tomb has left the Divine Cloud continent and disappeared into the void again. At that time, you have to leave as soon as possible. Otherwise, you will drift in the dark void with the Emperor's tomb and become a skeleton in this tomb. The fat old man and the skinny old man led the group forward. They did not dare to walk too fast. As they moved forward, they looked around. Su Zimo looked up. At the top of the sky, there were stars shining brightly. This place did not look like a tomb, but more like another world. In the starry sky, there were many broken beams that were connected to each other. They were covered in green moss, and occasionally, there were thick stone pillars that soared into the sky and stood on the ground. These beams and pillars were like ancient buildings from tens of thousands of years ago. They had been ravaged by the passage of time. But at a glance, one could still feel incomparable shock. Compared to these ancient buildings, everyone was so small that they were like specks of dust floating on top of them. The surroundings were dead silent. There was no sign of life, nor was there any sound. Everyone's footsteps resounded clearly in their ears as they walked through the ruins. The group proceeded forward for half a day without encountering any obstacles or dangers. Some of the cultivators gradually relaxed. "What is that?" Suddenly, someone pointed ahead and exclaimed in a low voice. In front of them, there seemed to be a figure sitting cross-legged on the ground. His back was facing them, and his long hair was draped over his shoulders. He was wearing a golden robe that shone with a faint light. "It should be a person, but I can't see through his cultivation." Li Tian frowned slightly and said in a deep voice. The skinny old man said with an indifferent expression, "Everyone, there's no need to be nervous. Almost all the cultivators that entered the emperor's tomb are mystic immortals." Su Zimo narrowed his eyes slightly. Chapter 1969. When the skinny old man saw this scene, he sneered and said, "People from the demon realm are evil and cruel. This is their method." Su Zimo sneered in his heart. Although the fat and skinny old man claimed to be from the immortal realm, the two of them knew that the profound Wind King had set a trap and still bewitched others to take the initiative to step in. This kind of thinking was probably even more vicious than the profound Wind King of the demon realm. The profound Wind King's backup plan could at most be considered a knife. The one who really killed the two Xian immortals was actually the bewitchment of the fat and skinny old man. "Senior, there shouldn't be any danger now, right?" A Xian immortal from the lower realm carefully asked. "I don't know about this," the fat old man said with a smile. No matter what, this was the corpse of a marquis. The storage bag was in front of them, and there might be an unimaginable huge treasure inside. Everyone was unwilling to leave just like that. After a while, someone took out a magic treasure from the storage bag again. Standing in the distance, he controlled the magic treasure to crash into the profound Wind King's storage bag. This person's magic treasure had just flown out, but before it could touch the profound Wind King's corpse, it lost its spirit energy. It was covered in green spots and fell down. "Ah!" this person exclaimed in a low voice. He had completely lost control of this magic treasure. Su Zimo already knew about this when he first entered the Emperor tomb. Naturally, he wasn't surprised. The other cultivators were all shocked. The skinny old man said faintly, "I forgot to remind you. In this Emperor tomb, it's best not to use any magic treasures. Any magic treasure that is exposed will be eroded by the Emperor tomb's curse and become a pile of scrap metal." One person frowned and said, "That means we can only rely on our physical body, bloodline, or secret techniques?" "Ha!" Li Tian laughed loudly. "That's great. I've ascended after crossing the 3 heavenly tribulations. Today, I want to see who in this Emperor tomb has a better physical body and bloodline than me." Jian Yu's expression was cold and he didn't say anything. Ordinary sword cultivators must be good at body refinement. Otherwise, it would be difficult to unleash the killing power of the sword Dao to the extreme. Just as they were discussing, someone quietly went behind the profound Wind King and gradually approached. In the blink of an eye, the distance between this person and the profound Wind King was already very close. This person's eyes were burning. He reached out his hand like lightning and grabbed the storage bag on the profound Wind Monarch's waist. "Got him." This person was ecstatic. Just as he was about to open the storage bag to check what treasures were inside, a green ghost fire the size of a fingertip suddenly floated out of the profound Wind King's corpse. When the ghostly fire landed on the body of this Xian immortal from the lower realm, it was as if it had encountered strong alcohol and quickly engulfed his entire body. In the blink of an eye, the body of this Xian immortal from the lower realm ignited with green flames and became a huge human-shaped fireball. Many cultivators hurriedly retreated and distanced themselves. From within the fireball came a shrill scream. After a few seconds, the screams disappeared. The flesh and blood of this mystic immortal from the lower domain had been burned into nothingness by the green flames. Only a skeleton with green spots was left on the ground. This time, even Su Zimo was secretly shocked. Although he was proficient in the Tao of fire, the power contained in the green flames made even his heart palpitate and his scalp tingle. If he was touched by this flame, it would be difficult for him to escape. This is the cursed ghostly fire, the skinny elder said coldly. In this emperor's tomb, the corpses of some experts can give birth to the cursed ghostly fire. It can burn flesh and blood and refine the primordial spirit. This is just a small lesson for you. In this emperor's tomb, there are too many things that can kill you. Jian Yu put 2 fingers together and formed a sword seal. Across the void, he slashed out a sword light at the storage bag on the ground. Perhaps it was because of the passage of time or because it was corroded by the emperor's tomb's curse, but even the marquee storage bag could not withstand the sword light and instantly shattered. Crash! The contents of the storage bag scattered all over the ground. Everyone looked over. One had to admit that there were indeed many treasures in the marquee storage bag. Just the various Dharma treasures and spiritual treasures alone reached tens of thousands. They were all piled up together, almost forming a small mountain. However, it was a pity that those Dharma treasures and spiritual treasures were filled with green spots and had lost their spirituality. They were completely useless. Some of the cultivation resources in the storage bag, such as spirit stones, had lost their essence chi as well. For example, some elixirs were filled with curses and no one dared to consume them even if their medicinal effects were still present. Many cultivators were disappointed. 3 of them were dead and their storage bags were opened. However, there were no useful treasures within. Let's go, the skinny elder said in a deep voice. Everyone followed behind the skinny and fat elders and continued forward. Su Zimo did not follow. Instead, he stood not far away and glared at the small mountain of Dharma treasures and spiritual treasures with a flickering gaze. What are you doing there? The skinny elder asked with a frown when he realized that Su Zimo did not follow behind. Su Zimo did not even look at the skinny elder and replied casually, "You guys go ahead first. I'll take a look around. I'll catch up soon." Pumph. The skinny elder's face sank. "Don't blame me for not reminding you. If you get separated from us, you'll be buried in this monarch tomb." Saying this, the skinny elder led the group and continued forward, ignoring Su Zimo. Tang Zi's voice suddenly appeared in Su Zimo's mind. "Do you feel that the treasures in the storage bag of a demon emperor are a bit rare?" "That's right." Su Zimo nodded slightly. Tang Zi transmitted her voice. "Emperors can all form grotto heavens. Their real treasures are all nurtured in their grotto heavens and refined day and night. They won't put them in storage bags." Su Zimo's eyes flashed with realization. No wonder he did not find any grotto heavens. According to Tang Zi, treasures like grotto heavens should be hidden in the Xian Emperor's grotto heavens. Tang Zi continued, "Even if the Xian Emperor is dead, we won't be able to open his grotto heavens. Hurry up and follow us." "You guys go first. I'll be there soon." Su Zimo did not explain further. He stayed behind. Apart from being curious about the lack of treasures in the Xian Emperor's storage bag, there was another important reason. It was the small mountain of Dharma treasures and spirit treasures in front of him. To others, these Dharma treasures and spirit treasures were just a pile of scrap metal. But to Su Zimo, that might not be the case. To be precise, they were of great use to the prison's suppressing cauldron. Because, after the storage bag was opened, the prison's suppressing cauldron trembled for a long time. This was a sign that it wanted to devour and refine weapons. Although the weapons on the curse were tainted with the curse, the prison's suppressing cauldron did not seem to care. To it, these weapons were food. They were just a little dirty. Su Zimo waited for the skinny and fat elders to leave with the group. After they disappeared from his sight, he took out the prison's suppressing cauldron. As expected, the prison's suppressing cauldron was exposed in the monarch tomb. There were no traces of green spots on the cauldron. Even the curse of the monarch tomb could not taint the prison's suppressing cauldron. 2K Reading Network. Chapter 1970. Su Zimo was extremely cautious and did not rush forward. Instead, he controlled the prison's suppressing cauldron and approached the small mountain of magical treasures. As expected, just as the prison's suppressing cauldron approached the magical treasures, a few wisps of green ghost fire floated out of the Xian Feng King's corpse. These ghost fires seemed to have some kind of spirituality. As long as an external object approached, it would float out and burn it to ashes. Su Zimo controlled the prison-suppressing cauldron and did not dodge. Instead, he charged towards the ghost fire. These ghost fire landed on the outer wall of the prison-suppressing cauldron. Before the fire could spread, it was absorbed by the vermilion bird saint's soul and disappeared. Boom! The prison-suppressing cauldron continued forward and collided with the small mountain of magical treasures. This pile of magical treasures instantly collapsed and scattered in all directions. A powerful suction force burst forth from the prison-suppressing cauldron. Among the 10,000 magical treasures, thousands of weapons were selected and pulled into the prison-suppressing cauldron. These weapons were all spiritual treasures. Spiritual treasures had passed the heavenly tribulation and developed spirituality. The materials of the magical treasures themselves had undergone a transformation. Even if they were already destroyed and had lost their spirituality, these scraps were still very useful to the prison-suppressing cauldron. If all these spiritual treasure scraps were refined, it was very likely that the third wall of the prison-suppressing cauldron could be repaired. If the third wall could be repaired, not only could the third saint's soul be awakened, the Nirvana Sutra would also be more complete. This trip to the emperor's tomb, regardless of whether or not he could find the jade talisman, to Su Zimo, the harvest was already enough. If not for this emperor's tomb, who knew how long it would take to collect so many spiritual treasure scraps? An extremely terrifying heat burst forth from the prison-suppressing cauldron, melting all the spiritual treasure scraps that were pulled in. Very quickly, they turned into a pool of red molten iron. Su Zimo discovered that within the molten iron, there were some strange green bubbles. As expected, these green bubbles were the curse of the emperor's tomb. With the curse of the emperor's tomb, it would take a long time for the prison-suppressing cauldron to refine and absorb all the spiritual treasure scraps. Su Zimo was not in a hurry. At the very least, there was no need for the prison-suppressing cauldron in the emperor tomb for the time being. About 2 hours later, Su Zimo waited for the prison-suppressing cauldron to swallow all the spiritual treasures before putting it away and chasing after Tang Zi and the others. This time, Su Zimo spread out his spiritual perception and sped up. Soon he saw Tang Zi and the others. Initially, when they parted ways, there were still over 90 of them. It had only been 2 hours, but there were only 50 or so people left in the group. Apart from Tang Zi, the rest of the cultivators looked pale and frightened. They seemed to have suffered a great shock. What happened? Su Zimo chased after him and asked with a frown. One of them swallowed his saliva and said with lingering fear, "We just passed by a pile of skeletons. Who would have thought that these skeletons would strangely come to life and start a massacre? We were no match for them and many of us died. Some of us were chased by those skeletons and are probably dead." Most of the cultivators who perished here were once experts. The corpses that were left behind did not decay after thousands of years. If they really came to life, even heavenly immortals would not be able to stop them, let alone mystic immortals. "I want to go back. I don't want to die." A cultivator clutched the wound on his abdomen. His face was pale and he was on the verge of breaking down as he mumbled, "You can't go back without me." The skinny old man harumphed. "I don't want to go any further. I don't want to look for jade talismans anymore. You guys can look for them." The person was terrified. As he spoke, he retreated and wanted to go back the way he came. However, after a few steps, he began to stagger. He bent over and clutched his abdomen with both hands. A low growl came from the depths of his throat, as if he was in great pain. Following that, the person fell to the ground. The blood flowing out of the wound on his abdomen turned green and his skin began to rot. After a series of screams, the person was completely unrecognizable and his vitality was gone. The fat old man seemed to be lingering with fear as he said, "The corpses in the emperor's tomb are tainted with the curse of the emperor's tomb all year round. Even an insignificant bone piece is a great killing weapon. If you're injured by those corpses, you'll definitely die." Tang Zi glanced at the person before retracting her gaze. Although she was still expressionless, she still felt her heart palpitate when she saw that. "What's going on?" Su Zimo asked with his spirit consciousness, "How did those bones come to life?" Tang Zi said, "The Emperor's tomb is filled with the power of the curse all year round. However, after thousands of years of evolution, some strange life forms have been born. Those life forms are tiny and hard to detect. They're also extremely weak. However, they can attach themselves to the skeletons and control them to fight. There were all sorts of strange things in the boundless world. Many species of living beings were born in special environments and strange worlds. For example, the life forms that Tang Zi mentioned could survive in the environment of the Emperor's tomb. However, if they were outside, there was a high chance that they would not survive for even a day." After a moment of silence, Tang Zi continued, "The greatest threat in the Emperor's tomb is not those strange life forms, but some ghost immortals." Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Although this was his first time hearing about ghost immortals, he already had a rough understanding of them. Ghost immortals were similar to the formation of the otherworldly soldiers on Tianhuang mainland. They were formed from the lingering yin qi, resentment and malevolent qi of cultivators who encountered unexpected calamities or were struck by misfortune. None of the experts who entered the Emperor's tomb were spared. One could imagine how strong the resentment of those experts were. Tang Zi continued, "The ghost immortals in the Emperor's tomb are even scarier. That's because those ghost immortals are tainted with the curse of the Emperor's tomb. You can't even touch them, let alone fight them." Su Zimo's expression was grim. This Emperor's tomb was even scarier than he had imagined. If he was unlucky and encountered any ghost immortals, he might die here. The fat and skinny old men had grim expressions as well. Both of them had not expected that they would lose almost half of their cultivators in less than a day after entering the Emperor's tomb. At this rate, it would be wishful thinking for them to survive a month in the Emperor's tomb, let alone look for jade talismans. "Everyone follow closely. Don't act on your own this time round." The skinny old man glared at Su Zimo and said sternly. The fat old man identified the direction and led everyone forward. They hadn't walked far when a green mist suddenly appeared in front of them, shrouding them in their direction. "It's a curse mist." The fat old man's expression changed starkly as he shrieked. Before he finished his sentence, Tang Zi had already recognized the origin of the green mist and sped towards the back. In a panic, everyone moved as well. Chapter 1971. Everyone panicked and sprinted with all their might. They only came to a stop after running for more than 50 kilometers. The cursed mist behind them had already disappeared. The fat and thin old men did a head count and realized that more than 10 people were missing. They did not know if they were separated from the group or devoured by the cursed mist. They had only entered the tomb for less than half a day and there were only slightly more than 30 of them left. It was a heavy loss. Their experiences for the past half a day caused everyone to be fearful. Even ruthless people like Li Tian and Jian Yu fell silent. No matter how strong they were, they could only dominate the mystic essence realm. There were way too many things that could kill them in the tomb. Just now, what's that cursed mist? Some cultivators could not help but ask with lingering fear. The thin old man said with a dark expression, "That's the curse of the tomb. Due to various reasons, it gathered together and materialized. If you're devoured by the cursed mist, the power of the curse will seep into your flesh, organs, and bones. Even if you manage to leave this place alive, you'll definitely die." Right now, everyone had just entered the tomb not long ago. Although they were cursed, the power had yet to seep into their bodies. That was the reason why they had a chance to resolve it. "Let's go." Everyone rested for an hour before the fat old man stood up and continued forward with the remaining 30-odd people. Actually, in the process of escaping just now, Su Zimo had a chance to leave. However, the fat and thin old men were the ones who had the way to leave the tomb and there was no need for him to act alone. Furthermore, the environment of the tomb was complicated and dangerous. He did not know much about it either. If he followed the group, he would have more chances of escaping if he encountered danger. "What's that?" Before they had gone far, a sharp-eyed cultivator pointed at a certain area in the distance and yelled, "Hey!" There was a flash of light in that area that resembled a gigantic mirror. On the surface of the mirror, There were also streaks of dazzling and bizarre light that flashed for a moment before disappearing. Su Zimo had strong eyesight and had long seen it clearly. It was a gigantic lake that rippled and reflected some light, attracting everyone's attention. As for the dazzling lights on the lake, he could not see them clearly because he was too far away. "Let's take a look," the skinny old man said in a deep voice as he led the group in that direction. "It's a lake." Some cultivators recognized it. "There are a lot of people over there." Before they even got close to the lake, they noticed that there were quite a few cultivators standing around the lake. They had formed their own groups, and they were separated into different camps. Su Zimo glanced at it. There were about 7 or 8 people in the camp around the lake, and their cultivation bases were similar to theirs. They were all 8th and 9th stage mystic immortals. However, there were no identifiable markings on these cultivators, so it was unknown where they came from. Before entering the Emperor's tomb, Duke Yuanzhua had said that, apart from them, there were surely other factions that had entered the monarch tomb. They're just some small sections. There's nothing to be afraid of. The skinny old man made a rough judgment. His expression relaxed slightly as he said in a deep voice, "Come, let's go." "Senior, these sects and factions don't have any markings." "How did you know?" a cultivator asked. The skinny old man said proudly, "As long as it is a real big sect or a big force, when entering the Emperor tomb, they will definitely not hide their tracks. Instead, they will reveal their unique symbol to intimidate others." As he spoke, the skinny old man pointed at a black and gold token on his waist. This command token had a large Jin character written on it. "Look over there, the great Jin celestial nation is also here. I heard that the Emperor's tomb has appeared in the divine firmament's celestial realm. Not only the great Jin celestial nation, but the other 2 celestial nations have also sent people in. That's not all. I heard that the 4 major celestial sects have also sent people into the Emperor's tomb with ulterior motives." Some of the cultivators around the lake recognized Su Zimo and his group and whispered among themselves. Some of the cultivators seemed to be unwilling to provoke them and avoided them. The 3 major celestial nations had their own territories in the divine firmament continent. Each of them had the absolute power to rule. Apart from the 4 major celestial sects, no other sects or factions could compete with them. All the land in the world belonged to the Emperor. Within the territory of the celestial nations, all the sects and families, as well as all the cultivators and living beings, had to obey the celestial nation's rules. The cultivators around the lake recognized the skinny old man and the fat old man, so they naturally did not want to get into a conflict with them. Just now Li Tian and the others had experienced many dangers and were in a sorry state. Now that they had regained some confidence, they subconsciously puffed out their chests and regained their vigor. Su Zimo and the others approached the lake and looked over. In the middle of the lake, there was a lone island. On this island, there would occasionally be colorful lights flickering. It was a magnificent sight. Moreover, there was a faint medicinal fragrance coming from the direction of the lone island. Could it be? The fat old man stared at the light on the lone island. Suddenly, his eyes widened and he exclaimed, "It's the 7-glow immortal ginseng." The skinny old man nodded and said, "It must be the 7-glow immortal ginseng. There's no mistake. I didn't expect the 7-glow immortal ginseng to grow in the Emperor's tomb. It's completely mature and is shining with 7 different lights." The fat old man and the skinny old man were so excited that they lost their composure. Su Zimo could not help but transmit his voice to Tang Zi. "What's the 7-glow immortal ginseng?" "It's one of the most famous immortal herbs in the upper realm. Legend has it that when it's fully mature, it will emit 7 different lights. No matter how serious the injury is, it can be healed. If it's a mature 7-glow immortal ginseng, even true immortals and immortal emperors would fight for it outside." After a slight pause, Tang Zi added, "Besides, the 7-glow immortal ginseng can also increase a cultivator's lifespan." Su Zimo's eyes flickered with realization. No wonder the fat old man and the skinny old man were so excited. They had chosen to enter the Emperor's tomb because their lifespan was almost up. If they could obtain the 7-glow immortal ginseng, They would be free from the threat of their lifespan drying up. Su Zimo also noticed something strange. Tang Zi, who had always been calm, was actually trembling when she was describing the 7-glow immortal ginseng. If what Tang Zi said was true, then this immortal medicine was indeed a priceless treasure. Su Zimo was Qinglian's true body to begin with. This immortal herb would be of great use to him as well. However, he was still able to maintain his calm. The fact that such an immortal herb grew in the emperor's tomb and the surrounding cultivators did not make any moves meant that this immortal herb was not easy to obtain. Su Zimo's gaze landed on the surface of the lake. The lake water was clear and had a hint of green. Even with Su Zimo's eyesight, he could not see what was under the lake. However, if there was danger, it was most likely in the lake. Just as he was deep in thought, the fat old man and the skinny old man had already calmed down and returned to normal. Suddenly, the skinny old man said, "Who's going to bring this immortal ginseng over?" Bookmark for easier reading. All of their faces changed color in horror. Those cultivators had sharp reactions and stopped right away. Channeling their dermic arts, they soared into the air, wanting to leave the lake. However, before those cultivators could escape completely, black shadows tore through the surface of the lake one after another and leaped out, devouring the cultivators in midair. This time round, the cultivators around the lake could see it clearly. Those black shadows were a type of fish with strange appearances. They were pitch black and had no eyes. Their tails were gigantic, and when they slapped the surface of the lake, the immense force caused them to leap into the air. Instantly, at least hundreds of eyeless fish tore through the surface of the lake and chased after the cultivators in midair. The teeth of those eyeless fish were extremely sharp. The moment they opened their mouths, their upper and lower jaws would protrude forward in a menacing manner. Once one was bitten by those eyeless fish, there was no way they could escape. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 eyeless fish could devour a cultivator until only his skeleton was left. The dozens of cultivators were too close to the lake. The eyeless fish leaped out from the lake, and many cultivators could not dodge in time. Before they could fly far, they were devoured by the eyeless fish and buried in the lake. "I think I've seen a fish like that in an ancient book," the fat old man at the side murmured with a wary expression. "It said that these fish only have one of their 5 senses, smell. They can sniff out all sorts of life auras. As soon as other living beings enter their territory, they will attack in groups until they are torn apart and devoured." Shoo! Right then, another figure appeared on the surface of the lake and sped towards the lone island in the middle of the lake. Tragic cries and wails were endless above the lake, and it was filled with blood. Nobody dared to take another step forward. Li Tian, Jian Yu and the others were also pale and rejoiced internally. Thankfully, they did not act rashly. Otherwise, given their methods, it would have been difficult for them to escape the pursuit of the eyeless fish. The appearance of that figure was extremely eye-catching. There's really someone who isn't afraid of death and dares to go up. After all, the treasure is right in front of us. If we can risk our lives for such a great opportunity, there's a high chance we can transform into a dragon and soar into the heavens. If we can't even protect our lives, how can we transform into a dragon? Many cultivators had different expressions. "It's Tang Zi." Su Zimo furrowed his brows slightly. Just now, he noticed that Tang Zi was moved. Furthermore, there was a slight change in her emotions when she caught sight of the 7-dawn immortal ginseng. He had not expected that Tang Zi would disregard the danger and want to charge across the lake to the lone island. Of course, as an assassin, Tang Zi had an excellent grasp of the opportunity to make a move. At that moment, the attention of the hundreds of eyeless fish was focused on the dozens of cultivators in midair. Tang Zi ignored the consumption of her essence qi and soared into the air. She was almost 90 feet tall and flew over everyone's heads, heading towards the lone island. Halfway through Tang Zi's journey, the surface of the lake splashed. At least thousands of black figures broke through the surface of the water and chased after Tang Zi in midair. Pissed. Many cultivators felt their scalps prickle when they saw that. Thousands of eyeless fish broke through the surface of the water and soared into the air at a height of 90 feet or even higher. Instantly, Tang Zi was in danger. Ah! Suddenly, Tang Zi opened her mouth and let out the sound of an immortal wail.